underscore make underscore RPGs. Is that somebody that anybody in here knows? I don't know who that is.
No, I don't
I
know.
think that I was trying to find. Yeah, I think it's the. I feel terrible for this person. Um, they like made a bunch of they made like a subreddit for the Stormlight RPG, not knowing that like a couple of the like existing moderators already had one like ready to go to like
Aw.
share when the beta started.
Mm,
People who knew that it was going to be the Cosmere RPG, so they were like prepared to like go like straight to r/Cosmere RPG, and this person put in a lot of work to like make some other subreddits and didn't realize that
That.
no one was going to use the ones that they lovingly made.
Oh, that is brutal.
Bag of Pudding is asking if we're going to talk about preview chapters.
I say no. That's my vote. While I love talking about it, I think it's too risky for people that might jump in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I've only read the prologue.
Well, the problem is the problem. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with that, but at the same time, with all the stuff we're going to talk about,
Don't jump in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I've only read the prologue.
well, the problem is the problem. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with that, but at the same time, with all the stuff we're going to talk about, if we get lower, if we start talking about unpublished things,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah,
gets into
because I
that realm
mean,
as
if
well.
we get down there and we get like that bottom layer mentions the storm faker conspiracy, so
Yeah, I would say that unless, I mean, we will call out if something we're about to talk about touches on Wind and Truth preview chapters. I don't expect much of the iceberg to touch upon Wind and Truth preview chapters, just based on what it has in it.
Yeah,
that probably works.
Yeah.
we'll say you're safe unless we say otherwise.
We'll give a
We'll
hefty
be clear
warning.
to say otherwise.
Yeah. So we'll use my little cubicle over here, which maybe TikTok will yell at me at some point for not having a face. We'll see what happens. They're like, "You have to have a camera," and I was like,
Did
"Why?"
anybody count how many things are on here?
It's a lot. I did not.
Howdy, Sir Fermit.
As we go through, the pink this person has described as meta. So like words of Brandon, things you'd pick up just by like walking through a Barnes and Noble, news articles, things like that. Things in yellow they've claimed are canon. That's welcome for anybody to debate that and or discuss it. And then red are more true fan theories. This first tier 1, basic knowledge. Those who have never read Sanderson or are somewhat familiar with this tier. Let's start on the left here. We've got Brandon Sanderson.
CJ, is it possible? Can you make yours like full screen, or can you make your box take up more of the screen so that viewers can focus on that more rather than our beautiful faces?
There we go.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I was originally going to go landscape with it, and then it was yelling at me about multi-guest, and who knows? We'll figure that out at some point. Oh no, what is that? There we go. Cool. Anything from this first tier that anybody wants to talk about? We've got Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn, Elantris, The Secret Projects, Wheel of Time, Warbreaker, Stormlight Archive, 3 Laws of Magic, and The Cosmere.
Man, I love all those things.
They sure are things.
I don't know. I feel like if we're going to be talking iceberg, we should already have a good knowledge of all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think Wheel of Time.
If you don't
But
know
there
what
was
this
a
is,
point
why
of
are you
having
here?
real time in there is.
Sorry?
I don't know what they have the wheel of time in there for some reason. I don't know why. That's gonna if this is a Cosmere iceberg chart. Why have that in there?
I think the idea is it's you might be aware that he's that guy that finished the Wheel of Time. Is the idea. So these are things that you would know about Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere Similar to like if you were doing the Lord of the Rings, you'd be like, oh yeah, he wrote The Hobbit as well. That kind of thing, I think, is the idea. 3 laws of magic.
Non-Balat does marry Elita, and we don't know what happens to Elita in Wheel of Time. So, call me crazy. All right.
That's funny.
We might have another world hopper on our hand.
Universe hopper.
Does anybody have the 3 laws of
The
magic?
Wheel of Time's in the Cosmere. That puts Earth in the Cosmere, right?
It's true. But the Wheel of Time also is a multiverse. So, anybody have the 3 laws of magic ready to go?
I know rule 1. That's the only one I know off the top of my head, which is what a magic system can't do is infinitely more important and interesting than what it can do.
My AI list tells me that's number 2? Question mark?
Maybe it's number 2.
No.
It's one of them.
Yeah.
It's Sanderson's first law of magic is an author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well
The rule of cool.
Is there a rule 3?
Yes.
There's 3.
Not including rule 0?
Yeah,
3 must be the
there's
boring one.
I can't remember what 3 is.
It says expanding
what you already
existing
have,
elements. Yeah.
Oh. There we go.
No one
Yeah.
cares about rule 3.
Nobody cares about rule 3. All right, let's see. Where do you see?
I'm gonna pull this image up on my computer so I can have it bigger.
Yeah, I'm gonna zoom in.
I counted, by the way. I could have missed one, but I've got 160. 160 of them.
Did you type them all out in a document?
What is there a part of the Cosmere where you've seen those 3 laws pop up and have appreciated them?
I think Mistborn Era 2 is a really good example of Rule 2, where we have the main character where he has 2 magics, right? He has Ferrochemy and Allomancy, but he uses them in such creative and kind of out-of-the-box ways. Where in Era 1, where you have a Mistborn who just has so many different powers, you don't see that creativity in the magic system that I feel like you really get a cool idea of in Era 2.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mal, who is Vax? That is a great question. That's further down, but we'll get there for sure.
When is Vax? Where is Vax?
That all of
nobody
those
ever
are
asks,
the question.
Nobody ever asks how is Vax. That's the real question.
But why is Vax?
I would be very surprised if I haven't seen this exact joke play out before. So somebody has asked all these questions.
Nobody ever. Okay, sure. Let's
Frost.
see. Are we ready to jump into? So tier 2 is. Oop, nope, don't do that, CJ. Come back over here. Leave y'all's lovely faces. Tier 2 is described at you read the novels or minimal research, and it should, in theory, be immediately obvious from doing so. First thing, Hoyd.
Ars Arcanum stuff.
What?
So a lot of Ars Arcanum stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Chris Ars Arcanums are included in that, right? So it's like it's reading, but it's also some pretty heavy reading as you go.
Right. Or like a lot of this is as well just if you're active in the community, talking about RAFO, the Kickstarters, movie deals. Those are just things that if you're active in the community, you would hear about and know about and see a bunch of posts about, and Mormonism as well. So that one I feel like has kind of taken a backseat recently. I feel like that hasn't been front and center pretty much ever since that the Wired article.
Yeah.
There was a post in the subreddit yesterday, last night, about somebody Mormonism related that did not explode and need to be shut down. It was amazing. 5 out of 5
Whoa.
stars.
Oh.
Hey, you should send it to me. I want to read through the comments. As
But
I believe I'm the only token Mormon present right now, I have personal interest.
That's great.
I think I am out of all of us here. I think I'm the only Mormon.
As
not me.
far as I know.
I think
As
that
far
is
as I
correct.
know.
Great answer.
Speaking on one person here, but
We already had you baptized.
I didn't even know. Thank you.
I think some of these things, like I think it's funny that I feel like movie deals. There is tier 2 movie deals, but there's also like tier 3 and tier 4 movie deal discussion where it's like, I don't know, more obscure movie deal lore.
Well, you could always talk about Hoyt Amaram. So
Hoyt Amaram, exactly.
that's
You guys heard
probably
of
like
Hoyt Amaram?
tier 3 or tier 4. I think Jeremie knows who Hoyt Amaram is.
Oh, you gotta read. This is like
I don't
I'll
think
dig
I
up
do.
the link. There's a post on r/crim posting that somebody did that was like they came
Years
in and they're
ago.
like, oh, this is the I got a look at the script for the Stormlight Archive show or whatever, and it's like the most unhinged, hilarious,
So
awful.
awful.
Oh yeah, I saw that a few weeks ago.
I stopped. I got off of Reddit a while ago. Once I got turned down to be a moderator, I quit. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Josh, back in the day before he knew who I was, he's like, "Who the heck is this guy?" Nope.
We looked at his post history, and it was. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I don't know. I did put in to be a moderator at one point on the Stormlight server, and then I got told no. That's not why I quit, but that is a true story. That was like 5 years ago, though.
I wouldn't want to be a moderator on there. Honestly, I don't envy that at all.
No thanks.
I don't get on Reddit anymore enough. I just don't have the time.
We have someone who has delved deep into the iceberg and wants us to talk about a main Reddit
We're getting
post.
there.
Did y'all see Adolin is a Khandra theory? Mal says.
That is a new one to me. Yeah, I've never even heard of that one.
Which
Same.
is
I mean,
impressive.
I think there's a theory that literally every character in the Cosmere is a Khandra. So, like, I've seen one for all of them. So.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Everyone
I
is a Khandra. Everyone is Shallan.
actually saw a really cool theory for Era 2 or a spinoff, which also freaked me out. And it was after everything happens at the end of Era 1, Shallan ends up off-world, and they go searching for Myalarin, her and Adolin. And the whole time they're searching for her, and they can't find her, and they don't know why, because he can summon the sword. And at the end of the book, you find out Adolin actually died, and she's been using her light weaving to create a light weaving of Adolin.
That's so awful.
Another block for her emotional trauma. And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting, but that would break me.
So I think I found
fan fiction.
the Adolin Khandra post, and it says here, does anyone notice that almost the entire Kholin family ends up becoming Night Radiant except for Adolin? Even Elhokar, moments before his death, said the words. Seems like too much of a coincidence to me. Something tells me that Adolin is different from the others in the Kholin family. Is it possible that a Khandra on Roshar foresaw the humans would begin to make many steps towards regarding Stormlight and killed Adolin, taking his place, and that would explain why Adolin isn't able to become a Radiant?
That would be odd, given that we have POV from Adolin in his own head, and there is nothing. I do appreciate the unfortunate deranged game we have to play when Sanderson is like, yes, you've seen a Khandra on screen, and now we just have to ask, was this person a Khandra? Is this
It's a
person
pretty big
Khandra?
stretch, William. You're right. Has he said that we've seen the Khandra on screen? I know there is a Khandra in Roshar. I haven't seen where he said we've seen them.
I was referring back to Warbreaker, where they figure out, or not a Khandra. This wasn't even a Khandra. This was a terrorist woman person It's later down on the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
The nurse person being Terrace. Did
Right.
anybody who here caught? So we should, particularly for purposes of when I toss this up onto the YouTubes, who is Hoyd and what is Hoyd, or what is a Hoyd? Why is a Hoyd? Who would like to speak on that for a moment?
Hoyd is an anchor beam that has to be everywhere because he hacked his spirit web to be where he's important. He's the person who's trying to put together. I believe his goal is to put Adonalcium back together, or at least put a being back in that position to take up that mantle. And he's hacked his spirit web in order to show up where he needs to be to get that ends.
I love that description of Hoyd. Hoyd is somebody that is so self-important that he magically exists in every story.
Yep.
But sometimes
we don't
he's a
know,
cab driver.
as far as I know, we have. Yeah, I mean, he's just there. He's just doing things. He's not necessarily affecting things all the time, but he's there. Off the top of my head, and I'm trying to remember from the Hoyd panel from last year, I don't think we have any idea how he manipulates fortune, right? We just know that he can, but we have no idea how.
He stole Axes.
I have seen that theory. I've seen that. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure how you would steal fortune, but what puts me off of that theory is the fact that Axes has a name for the curse of bad luck that he has.
Yeah.
Curse kind.
Yep.
Level tier like 4 or 5, whatever Hoyd comment. Back in the Elder Days, Brandon's fandom was basically interacting on this forum called the Time Wasters Guide, which might be mentioned on here. I don't know. But you can go. So the 17th shard has I don't know the computer science term, but they've a copy of those forums that you can browse through 17th shard. Somewhere in the menu there's a link to an archive of it, and you can find the original post where Peter Alstrom was asking questions about why is this Hoyd guy showing up in multiple stories. That's a fun
Drang in the comments. I have never thought about it from that direction. I kind of like that. He's trying to make a shard level of power not affect a vessel's mind. I've never thought about it from that angle before, and I like the angle.
That explains why he's so jovial with Harmony. Because out of all of them, he's the closest that's gotten to equilibrium that we've seen so far.
You could argue also furthest.
Well,
Yeah.
not moving is a state of equilibrium, right? Technically.
That would imply that preservation's winning.
Ooh.
I'm a little confused by some of the placement on the iceberg.
Sure. Before we get the placement, we mentioned.
Yeah, where are we? Are we in
wanting-
tier 2 or are we in tier 3 right now?
We're in tier 2 still. The two that I would like to talk about from the two more are Raffo and the shards. Those to me are the most interesting to talk through from tier 2. And then tier 3 is where we can really start to just go wild and we can talk about everything that's there.
Cool.
Oh, and Nightblood as well.
Sounds good.
So the shards, we have how many shards of Adonalcium? How many do you count of the shards of Adonalcium? It's a bit of a dumb question. So
What do you
16,
mean, how many
right?
do you count?
Well, I count 17, right? Because Harmony, at minimum that we know of. Because do you start counting combined shards of Adonalcium?
See, in my mind, if I was to count Harmony, I would say there's 15 shards.
Right. So we know the names of all
But then where do we
that.
put the Dawn shard? Because Dawn Shard would be on an equal level, be held by 4 different people.
Well, Dawn Shards and Shards are 2 different things. I would still say no matter what, it's 16 because you always, even Harmony refers to himself a lot as holding 2 shards.
Sure.
Like that's what he says.
Right.
He names
But
himself Harmony, but he considers himself. He always says he considers himself 2 shards.
as Brandon said, is 16 the number that Adonalcium would have split in no matter what? Or if there was more people, could it have split into more shards?
Well,
Or if there was less, could it have split into less?
I think the thing there was more people, right? We know that.
Well,
16
I mean, I
shards
guess we know there
there
was
17,
there was Hoyd.
possibly 18 there.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, Hoyd and Frost,
So
perhaps?
there was 17 with Hoyd, and if you think Frost was there, if you think Frost was there, that's 18. So at the very least,
Yeah.
there were 17. I don't know if Frost was there. Frost might have just been like whenever we eventually get that story. I think Frost is going to be like that character that's off to the side that wasn't actually there for the shattering. But there was at least 17.
That's what I think.
And then
Is that he knew about it, but
Yeah, he's a player.
I'm inclined to think that Frost was not there because he seems to have like totally not been on board.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's where
I'm
I'm
inclined to
getting
think that
into.
I think there were more than the 17 though, just because it is bizarre to me that they would be like, oh, good thing we had one extra person here who happened to be here to you know what I mean? Like I feel like there had to have been like, I don't know, 30 people, and they're like, okay, we've got one more backup.
The only
than
way I would
exactly
think
the right number.
the only way I would see that, unless they knew somehow ahead of time of the 16 forces that created Eden,
Right.
And so they knew, hey, this is the number that we need, and somebody either tagged along or Hoyt himself tagged along. That's the only thing I can think of. Like if they specifically said we need to recruit this number of people to do this task because we need to all be there to pick up a shard, and they could even have been mistaken and said we think they're 17 or there was 16 that were there, and then the shard who wasn't supposed to be a shard was just like a tag along who ended up taking up the shard that Hoyt was going to take up.
Yeah, I like that angle. It could be like, hey, we have 16 people that are going to take the power, and we don't know if any of them had a Dawn Shard or not, or if only Hoyd had a Dawn Shard. It might have been like, hey, these 16 are going to take the power. Hoyd, you're the weapon. It could have been something like that.
Well, I think all 4 Dawn Shards were used, so that would mean 4 additional people, and I don't know if you are holding a Dawn Shard if you could even take up a shard, because we see how the Dawn Shard eats through a sprint. It would probably... I mean, it's obviously a much bigger battery, but it would start eating through the shard as well.
I don't know if it could. I mean, shard is directly from the spiritual realm, so I don't know. I feel like a Dawn Shard with a shard. Well, that'd be interesting. I'd want to see that. But do we know that all 4 Dawn Shards were used to kill Adonalcium?
I'm pretty sure Hoyd mentions it.
I think you'd have to assume that, right? I mean,
it states generally that the Dawn Shards were used, like they were used to do this. So like it would be weird if one was left out just for.
Yeah, if you're going to kill a god, you want the biggest guns you can get.
Because, I mean, we know that Hoyd was a Dawn Shard, and so I assume that he had it at that time, and he was going to pick up a shard. So I'm inclined to think
they're split into an even group of, you know what I mean? How is an even group of 4, like 4 groups of 4 that go in, each having a Dawn Shard.
Yeah, I've seen the quadrant theory. That's what I was going to ask, actually. Have you seen, does the iceberg mention quadrant theory at all?
I've looked through it. I haven't seen it, but I also haven't read every single thing. So
I feel like if it doesn't, that's one thing that it should have on there.
Yeah, I mean, you could put it inside of Dawn Shards, right, as a reference there.
Is there anything lower that mentions the one shard we don't know? Theories on what that one shard is? Just because since the shard is lower.
We can keep a list of things that should be on the list that are not.
You gonna give me a hug and buddy? Oh. You gonna say hi to TikTok before nighttime? Say hi, TikTok. Okay. Good night.
And then
the last unknown shard. Quadrant theory.
Yeah, Basil from CC is saying the survival shard. Yeah, we don't know what its name is or really what its intent is at all. We just know that it has to do with hiding, surviving,
Well,
maybe some sort of
we
wisdom.
don't know that it's the survival.
Yeah.
The survival shark could be one that he was mentioned, but we haven't seen yet. That could be
Yeah,
any
the-
of the
the-
shards that we've mentioned that we haven't seen yet.
Well, we've
The intent of
Green.
there is a shard that is just trying to hide and survive. We don't know.
yeah,
if,
I think that's what
we know
Basil's
that that's
talking
not
about.
their intent, and it might be. It could be that one that we don't know, or it could be one that we already do know, and it's just. I mean, it doesn't make sense for it to be most of them, right? But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we don't know what's up with virtuosity. Like, virtuosity could have been like the one that was
Virtual.
trying to survive or
one of the
something.
ones we haven't seen
My
on
head
screen,
canon is that
we haven't seen Invention, right? We haven't seen Whimsy on screen yet. We haven't seen who
Valor.
else haven't we seen?
I would be very surprised if Whimsy is trying to hide and survive.
Yes.
I would too. Also, invention. I know. I also think that virtuosity is probably still kicking around somewhere because Hoyd mentions that virtuosity splintered herself, but you don't have to be dead in order to be splintered. She could just take part of her power, splinter it, and the vessel can still be off somewhere else.
Sure.
So
So I think virtuosity is still kicking around somewhere.
Invention, Mercy, Valor, Whimsy are the four. Invention, Mercy, Valor, Whimsy, and the one we don't know. This list I'm looking at has Pat's G, which is stupid. But
It has what?
it has Pat's G on Pat's G. I don't know how to
Pat
say
G. Yeah, the
list I'm looking at
avatar.
right here. Which
Oh.
which I don't agree with that one where it says Pat's G is a shard. I mean, technically it's an avatar of a shard.
It's just an avatar. It's basically the same.
There's a few canon things on here that I don't think are actually canon.
No, I agree. I
thought
was
so,
looking
too.
at that too.
Like
I
the whole,
definitely agree.
Definitely part of the discussion.
the whole. Sorry, yeah, we're not quite down there yet. When we get there, I'll talk about the ones that because there's one that's like glaring to me that I'm like I don't think that's a thing.
All right.
Yes.
Yep. So I mean, yep. And then, and last thing in the shards, which wouldn't be in the tier 2 knowledge, but the that one question that Brandon raffoed before the question could get finished, I think from Loose There and Telescope about a year ago, where it was like, hey, Wit in Way of Kings is having his little monologue there at the end, and he lists 3 different things. 2 of them ended up being shards of Adonalsium. Is the third one a shard of Adonalsium? And I think he got 20% into that question, and Brandon said, Raffo, thank you so much. Great question. All right, let's move on. So ever since I heard that, that's felt very much
I do remember that.
Yeah, that's felt like a soft
Can somebody look that
confirmation.
up? What was the third thing?
Wisdom is what I have in my head, but that's not exactly what he says.
Intellect. I think intellect is the word that he uses.
In the comments, how
intellect
just
is
freezing.
what yeah, I could hear y'all the whole
I'll
time.
be right back, you guys.
You're good.
I can hear y'all the whole time.
Oh,
You're good. But yes.
You're
is
up.
anybody hearing that?
Yeah, now there's an next.
Is anybody hearing that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's Seth. He just took out his headphones and put them down, which I'm assuming means that it turned off his mic, and now it's probably echoing back from his stuff.
Thankfully,
in like that meta for some reason.
Yeah, like the existence of it.
And then Nightblood in Warbreaker in Stormlight, which I mean I don't think there's too much in that one right there.
The OG
I think
Cosmere connection, like the other than like Hoyd.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's probably
the first one that was like a mind blowing. Oh.
Yeah, well, I think it's also probably among the ones that is like easiest for a casual fan to notice, right? Like Xyle, which is I think in the next tier, is a good step above. Like, oh, you have to recognize color and metaphor, and then this one is like a sword says, "Would you like to destroy some evil?" Seth, I muted your mic because there was some weird feedback going on, so you'll have to unmute yourself on your end.
Oh, okay. My bad. That's probably because I set my two earbuds next to each other. Probably shouldn't have done that.
You're good. You're good. And yes, in Way of Kings, the thing that Wit goes on to talk about is intellect as one of the things that people might value.
Okay.
I think we're ready to go to tier 3.
It sounds like you're in speakerphone in a car.
I think I hear a dinosaur right now.
Yeah, it does sound like there's a velociraptor behind you.
Run.
Clever girl.
All right. Let's see. Adonalcium. We've already
Tier
talked about
3.
that.
2, 3, 2.
Yeah.
Frost.
So
There's Frost and Frost is a dragon. I don't feel like need to be two separate points, but
There's nothing else about Frost that's especially.
well, the letters, right?
Other than he's
acknowledging those
old,
letters.
he's a dragon.
The letter.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I feel like the letters by themselves can be a separate item rather than just Frost.
Sure.
Yeah, it would make sense that Frost and then Frost letters would be a thing, or Hoyd's letter would be a thing, but
I don't know what the
Frost exists. Frost is a dragon.
Cultivation.
Oh, okay. I was like, whoa, where did that? We know preservation's a human, or was.
Yeah.
Well, still is.
But can a human and a dragon make a baby, and can the baby be a human? I think the answer is yes.
I mean, they can get married, right? I mean, we have.
I think the answer would probably be yes.
Dragon marriage, right?
We have human and singers are genetically compatible, so why not humans and dragons?
Yeah,
they definitely are.
We have a canon human dragon couple, so I mean,
do we? I mean, do we know
strongly believed
Honor's species?
Yeah, I feel like if Honor was a dragon, that would have been something that was highly hinted at besides just cultivation. I feel like if Tanavast was a dragon.
Yeah, I guess every time Wit talks about
theory.
Yeah, every time Hoyd talks about a dragon being in residence, he's talking about current. So I guess he doesn't ever technically say that Tanavast wasn't a dragon, but I think we're in the correct theorizing.
There is a word of Brandon that I think there's a word of Brandon about shooting. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think we have all the shard. Other than the ones we don't know, the shards that we do know, we know which ones are dragons and which ones weren't, right?
I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like I've seen something somewhere that's we know Ulida, right? And we know Corvellium, and we know Endowment, right? Is that my thinking right?
Oh.
Yeah, Endowment is not.
Endowment's not a dragon. Who was it? Wasn't there one more? Or was it just those two?
I think
that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah, I don't think there's more.
And I mean, we don't know the 4 shards we haven't seen. We don't know if 5.
Did find a wob that confirms Tanavast not a dragon. Just for the record there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was.
Talking about dragons, we could move on to Feign Life in the same tier here in tier 3.
What do you want to talk about Feign Life? What do you think?
What Feign Life is, because I mean, I feel like we probably all know what Feign Life, but some of the viewers probably don't.
So
I've never.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
I was gonna say the thing that always comes to my mind is the six-limbedness is consistent, right? So like Ulida and dragons all have the 6 limbs going on. Is that a consistent or characteristic?
The Shodell.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, thank
The
you.
Shodell and dragons are some type of feign life.
Yeah.
Right.
Coming
So
from
I
what
know
planet?
because Brandon, we don't actually know, but presumably Yolan, but they might not be native to Yolan.
Sure. Famously on, I guess, is what I mean there, as opposed to
Yeah.
originating.
So I know Brandon has famously talked about how he wanted to come up with an ecosystem where dragons would naturally occur. He doesn't just like randomly plopping in dragons into human society because it doesn't make any sense. Where would they have come from? So that's where he kind of came up with this backstory of, oh, well, what if there was a place where everything had 6 limbs instead of our standard 4? And that could be where dragons came from. And then from there, I know like Yolan has, it's like the Feign life versus standard life are kind of competing for the same ecosystem, and that's the big struggle there. Drang asks, is the planet Nomad at the end of Sunlight visits their original home? Given the timeline of when that happens, I think the safe answer is no. They've probably migrated there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a theme that year for those books, not just the secret projects, but even like Lost Metal and stuff, was seeing the Shodell off-world in different areas. You know what I mean? So,
when it's not to go back fully, but the right now, I assume he means like Era 2 / Stormlight timeline.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
no, it makes sense. Speaking of Feign life, right above that we've got Dragon Steel. Name of the company seems pretty important.
Drang asked about the planet. Is the planet Nomad at the end of Sunlit Man their original home for the Shodell? Nobody commented on that, did they?
They're from Yolan. I addressed that.
Okay, my bad.
Well, and the planet there at the end of Sunlit Man, I have always interpreted that to have been the same planet that the Komachi visited.
Yeah.
Because it's like ocean land. Yumi sees them on the little video thing, landing among ocean land. I mean, just the details are there, such that it'd be very strange from a writing perspective not to do it that way. Doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just kind of makes sense.
Brandon doing some setup work so that next time we see the planet, we can be like, "Oh, this is the place we've seen in those other stories."
All right, I'm gonna do a hard right turn. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say before we move on too far from Feign life is. Oh, why can't I remember what they're called? The Bone Phone.
Yeah.
Tamukek.
I don't know. Is they
Tamukek? Is Tamukek on here?
It's like real far down.
I saw them.
It is down here.
I feel like it should be in this
tier 6.
I feel like it should be in the same category as Feign life. I don't know why they would separate it so much.
I think there have been actual references.
Feign life being 3 is kind of generous in my opinion.
I agree with you. Because I feel like 3 is, so what does it say? Most of the fandom exists on this tier. To enter 1 is required to at least regularly interact with the fandom and to understand WOBs. Yeah, Feign life, I feel like the majority of the fandom doesn't know what Feign life is, unless you're like really diving into the copper mind. So I feel like Feign life should be on 4, at least.
I'm be honest, I think it should be even lower. Yeah.
He might have had in mind people who read Dragonsteel Prime, given that is a published unpublished at this point. So I mean, if you've read that,
that's true.
You know, you would be comfortable
Why does he have
with it.
Dragonsteel Prime in BYU Library at tier 5?
I don't know, but see, Dragonsteel Prime itself is tier 4.
Yeah.
That's a good question. These are good questions.
We can get there.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the wob that I wish never got made.
Oh no!
All never broke.
Oh, really? Why do you wish it never got made?
Oh, because I think it would be an amazing moment in like Wind and Truth for them to have been like, yeah, Tom, we understand. Like you gave up. Like you finally had to give up, and then they're like, oh no, it
Oh,
was
you
this
thought
other
it
lady
would
who
have been
messed it up. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So you think it would have been a
Narratively,
better in-book reveal?
yes.
Okay,
Because I think
I can
it
get
was.
behind that.
Yeah, it was good for theorizing, and certainly, I mean, it helps the Shana Mama theory because now you need another herald to be out there to have broken. So that is helpful. I appreciate it, but it's one of those words of Brandon where it's like that is a pivotal character plot moment. That, I mean, unless he just doesn't plan to reveal it until book 6, 7, or 8, right? Like if it's just not going to come up until then yeah, sure, why not? Like we're talking forever from now.
I mean, we are getting a Talon book in the back half, right? So we could be,
Yeah,
he could be waiting for then.
Yeah. I just wish it had come up in the book.
They should have put like just the term WOB, WOB,
Yeah.
as an item in the list. I feel like, like as a tier 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And but I guess tier 2 maybe fits. But anyways, I
Probably
was just
2.
going to say that. I think that most of the fandom is just kind of has a lot of fun with words of Brandon, but there are like occasionally, every once in a while, Brandon says something that people are like, I wish he had not said that. Like this one. This is a prime example of it.
Yeah, Brandon does. He's the wobs are great, and him answering questions is great. But I think sometimes he's foot and mouth with going a little bit, and I feel like his team sometimes goes, Brandon.
Could you not?
I think so.
Please?
Yeah.
There was.
I do know he regrets some wobs. Like he regrets even touching when people have asked, at what point does a fetus gain its breath?
Oh gosh. There was like a very like glorious period of time where like when Arcanum, the website, was like brand new, and Brandon was still doing like book signings, and you'd go and like put recorders down to like record signings, and like that was like the source of all WOBs was, signing lines. There was like one like year there where like Dragonsteel was asking the staff for that site to like listen to the audio, and had people signing NDAs, and like occasionally they would say, hey, can you strike that out and not make that one public?
Wow.
It didn't happen often, but it did happen occasionally.
Interesting.
So what you're saying is we need
like coming from like a light-eyed family. But in any case, now Brandon just blabs and everybody hears it on YouTube, and it's there forever.
I think he also gives away more than he means to sometimes just by facial expressions.
That's very fair.
Sorry, go ahead, CJ. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're good. I'm looking at the stream on my phone and noticing some weird freezing that's happening. Earth is non-Cosmere. I think that's a helpful one for folks who are trying to get into Brandon Sanderson and figure out, like, I read this Reckoner series. Is that a thing? Like, does that ever come up? The takeaway there is if you see the Earth, it's not a Cosmere book. So Skyward, Alcatraz, all of those. Just a very helpful. His that in the pink for the meta, I think, and it's just a helpful
the
thing
Wheel
to be
of
aware
Time,
of.
which for some reason is in the top.
The what?
The Wheel of Time. That's my argument for why is it up there. Like, he's got a lot of non-Cosmere things. I'm just not sure why the Wheel of Time was added in at the top. I know he's famous for it, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
For
It
me,
seems like they
It's
might have gone a little bit less Cosmere Iceberg and more just
yeah.
like Brandon Iceberg.
I know, but that's the only non-Cosmere book stuff that he put up there.
No, but it does have like intentionally blank is here on tier 3.
Oh, and
Oh.
Mormonism and movie deals.
Yeah, but
Sanderson
movie,
writing
Cosmere movie
classes.
deals, Mormonism obviously influences writing just as any of our. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It just is
It
weird.
does. You are absolutely right that it does.
I just feel like
Yeah.
there's ties to the Cosmere for everything outside of that one thing. That's all. It's just
Yeah. I think for me, if I was just going to guess, it's because so many people come to him because they finished Wheel of Time. And they're like, what else has this guy written? And so it's like, yeah, it's the connection point. Speaking of what we talked about at the very beginning, Wind and Truth, pre-release content, that is a thing to be aware of in this fandom, that like you might come across things that are not published yet. Words of Brandon fit into that. I mean, gosh, even just thinking about when the Dragonsteel story is told someday, all these words of Brandon are going to suddenly become spoilers in theory, right? They're going to become pre-release content that we've been looking forward to for years, but have been so far in the future that it's been like, someday that'll happen. I'm
I
hearing
think that
y'all.
even counts for, like I said, the unreleased stuff, like the unreleased, like the Traveler, and then and it's, I don't know if it's on there somewhere, but like the Six of the Dusk preview chapter, the sequel chapters that get talked, that has
Right.
so much
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah. And even that stuff, I mean, that's been out for almost 2 years now. And that's something that probably I would say the majority of the fandom doesn't even know exists.
Yeah. Sorry, my internet is freaking out at the moment. Are we going to work? Is it going to work? I was saying, what is your theory on what is Vax? So what we know about it is AT stumbles into the cognitive realm as a cognitive shadow and says Vax ?
After he dies.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he
It does.
I don't know.
It does also get mentioned. So yeah, it is probably a planet because it also gets mentioned in the Elantris Ars Arcanum, which is I think it's only in the 10th anniversary editions. But in that one, Chris says even Taldane's and Vax's methods do not seem to apply. Or it's referring to like how people become invested.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And she says
so it is
even
likely
Taldane's
a
and
planet.
Vax's methods do not apply here.
So the fact that
yeah.
AT stumbles into the cognitive realm and says Vax makes me think that if it is a planet, it's probably a very cloudy, misty planet.
Yeah, makes sense
Something
to me.
to be reminiscent.
Where was that at in Arcanum Unbound?
The Cell essay.
And
No,
the 10th.
This is my comment was Elantris, the Ars Arcanum in Elantris.
Of the 10th anniversary. So that's the other thing that should be in this iceberg somewhere is like, hey,
absolutely it should. You're right.
Be aware that Brandon likes to add new things. And that was one of my favorite moments at JordanCon. He said they're talking about doing actual patch notes at some point for the books, like you would for a video game, to where you can be like, all right, what are the things that Brandon has made canon since I originally read this book? And were modified.
Because like retcons, right? I feel like retcons are something that should be in here, like the Words of Radiance retcon where Kaladin doesn't actually technically kill Zeph.
That's the fun one. Every once in a while, someone pops in to like Reddit or some fandom space, and they're like, "Wait!" Like they make some comment about it, and somebody else realizes like, well, "That's not what I read. Like, why this didn't happen?" And yeah.
And then there's the infamous, the stupid retcon that I don't like about ATM not being pure, but
yeah, but I feel like it was a necessary one though.
I
know,
love it.
probably.
I love it just because of like the chaos and the weirdness and like I don't know. It's just like it's just such a wild thing to retcon. I don't know.
Well, because it was such an important part, such a big part of that book, and then all of a sudden it's like, so ATM growing out of the ground is not naturally the pure god metal. It's instead ATM mixed with, what was it, Electrum or something?
Yeah, and that means that what frustrates me are the implications of it and the fact that it literally renders an entire thing that preservation says useless, right? Because preservation says, I'm making something that's never been seen before, people who are capable of burning away the body of a god. And all of a sudden, with that retcon, that whole thing that preservation says is now just not applicable anymore.
Well, I mean, to be fair to
Zach,
the
you
poor
translated.
guy, how old are god medals at that point, right? So, like, maybe it had never been seen before that someone burned away the body of a god, and he just prepared them for that task. So, what I said was true from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
From a certain
Fill
point
out
of
the
view.
note.
Every time I think about that, though, I think about is the I don't know if it's on here or not. Is the Brandon's released screenplay for a Mistborn movie on here anywhere?
It should be. I haven't read that. I know you've read it, right, Jeremy?
It's awful. It's terrible. It's absolutely awful. I hate it.
Yeah, no, I think you've said you
So
have
much.
thoughts about it. I've never
I
read
hate
it.
it so much. If he goes with that for like the actual Mistborn movie, I'm gonna be so mad. I hate the changes that he made. I absolutely hate.
I know some of the changes, and I'm actually behind a couple of them, like gender swapping Ham. I'm behind that. I agree with
The
that
gender
one.
swap stuff. I don't care about the gender swap stuff. I don't really want Ham. I want Docs, but either way, I don't really care about that because I think Docs makes more sense to gender swap if we're gonna get into that. Just because I think having a strong leader of the group that's a female, you can have some LGBT representation with his backstory and all that stuff. I think Docs is the better choice than Ham because you always get these buff. Let's just take a female character and just make them this big buff guy. No, let's have an intelligent female, feminine character, and you can make that Docs. But outside of that, there's other changes that I hated it. Like making
So,
Chanelariel like the main villain of the first movie, and like just I don't know. I'd have to go back and reread it, but there's so much changes in there that I absolutely despised. And I don't. Maybe that's me being too close to the Final Empire because it's my absolute favorite Cosmere book. That could be part of it. And I understand there's gonna have to be changes made, but the changes that he made, he deviated so much that it's like a different story.
Basil is asking, I don't understand the significance between it being mostly ATM and 100% ATM. So, the main reason for the retcon was because Brandon wanted all god metals to function the same way, meaning that anybody, regardless of whether they're a Mistborn or not, can burn it. That's why, like, anybody can burn Lerasium and become a Mistborn. He wanted ATM as well to be burnable by anybody. So he changed it saying, like, oh, okay, well, I'll just say that in Era 1, it wasn't pure ATM. So that's why only Mistborns or Electrum Mistings could burn it because it was Electrum that they were burning, not the ATM. That's the reason behind the retcon, but there's a lot of implications that make me upset.
I gotta bounce, guys. I just got home and gonna eat dinner,
You're good.
so I'll see y'all later.
See you, Zach.
All right, see Zach.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing that I don't like about the retcon is just the sheer massive number of now possible alloys that there are, because now you can alloy each metal with a god metal
That was
and
true
create
before, though.
an
You
entire
can
new
always do
16.
that.
Yeah, that was there before. So
But
the alloys of Lerasium like make you just a misting of that metal that it was alloyed with.
Drang,
There
that's
are
the
like a
question. What
whole.
happens when you burn pure ATM? We don't know. On the Allomantic chart, it says it's something similar to what Elend did when he burned ATM and
Duralaman.
wow, thank you, Duralaman. So basically, you glimpse into the spiritual realm is the vibe I'm getting, but we don't know. If anybody else has a better idea,
Peter. You're looking up your chart, Jeremy.
Huh?
I was
No,
wondering if you were looking up the
I didn't
chart.
my chart. My chart. It's over there. It's by my Mistborn stuff.
Yeah, it's like it says something about like an expansive vision
Okay.
of the future. I think maybe. So Peter Alstrom commented on it, saying that this is his like own like idea of it, not necessarily like the reality of it. But he said he thinks that that's what it happens with Elend, which you got to kind of jump through some hoops to make sense of this, in my opinion, because Elend is burning the alloy in the end of Hero of Ages, but Peter thinks that Elend experiences it at the end of Hero of Ages when he has his he burns duralumin with the ATM and has
that's what I was just
he
saying.
has something that transcend goes far beyond normal. He's not just seeing things in the physical realm where they're going to be in the future. He has this picture of what's going to happen in the future of the planet and what the shards are doing, and very sort
of mental and temporal effects. That's all it says. Yeah, because in Electrum itself, it just says burning Electrum allows the Alamer to see a vision of possible paths that they could take in the future, usually limited to a few seconds. And then obviously there's everything else there too. But
you read that chart and it almost sounds like it would the retcon was planned. I kind of think that Peter just went rogue and phrased it in this way where it was could be turned back into that, and he lobbied for Brandon to make it work the way he wanted it to.
Yeah,
which is totally possible.
Because that's the only one more. Because you can tell they did that with the retcon in mind. Because Lerasium, it just says, well, hold on, it says no, it has the alloy form on there too. Pure Lerasium transforms a person into an Allomancer or drastically improves their allomantic powers. In alloy form, it produces various expanded physical and enhancement effects, including the creation of mistings.
Yeah. So one last thing on the retcon, the mistings that were able to burn the ATM at the end of Hero of Ages. Do we know? My own speculation, and I think I've talked to CJ about this, is that they were just Electrum mistings that were able to then burn the god metal alloy of their own allomantic metal. Is there any confirmation one way or another on that?
There's not, and I it's kind of ambiguous because the problem is if the idea that Brandon has said for Lerasium is that Lerasium plus steel makes you become a steel misting, right? That implies that you're not a misting to be able to burn the Lerasium steel alloy, and so if that carries to ATM, then anybody should be able to do it, not just Electrum mistings.
You're right. That is a hole, isn't that?
I mean, Brandon can just say "Oh, this one works different," I guess, if he wants. But of course, it kind of defeats the whole point of the retcon, I guess.
So then, what was? If that's not the case, what do you think was special about those mistings?
I mean, it could be that they were I don't know, Electrum or something, and the point was just to get them to a place where they thought to try something else. You know what I mean? Because they didn't. Well, they did have Electrum, didn't they? I don't know.
They just. Yeah, because Electrum was Mal ATM, wasn't it? Poor man's ATM.
Mm-hmm.
They discovered it in Hero of Ages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't one of the original.
I mean, I think that. I can't remember. So 16% of people were getting sick and snapping, and then some percentage of those were oh, we they were not.
It was the sick. It was the percentage of the percentage. So there was the ones who got really sick or something were the ones who were Demu, who was on his deathbed practically.
Yeah.
Do we know what percentage of them were that? Was that number significant?
It was 16% of 16%. The Preservation did it on purpose to try to draw their attention to it.
So you could say the only reason that they're important, there is nothing important about them. The point was simply make you think about 16s and oh, there's other metals. Maybe we'll try something that we haven't. We'll make them eat a metal that they have not had before.
Okay, I could maybe get behind that. Mal ATM is ATM gold. But yeah, they had Electrum. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We totally didn't talk about Mal ATM being an example of alloy. I kind of like that. It always bothered me that the idea that Harmony swapped out the metals on the chart or whatever. Oh, there were 16 metals, and then Harmony decided, okay, we did that. Now let's take one off and put another one on there instead of ATM. You added binned alloy. Instead, it always just struck me as very goofy, and so I like that the retcon like cleans that up, sort of.
Josh, you are slowly working to get me to accept the retcon a little bit more.
I think
Slowly.
for the overall Cosmere story, the retcon works. For specifically Mistborn Era 1, I think there are some negatives to it, but and as somebody who absolutely adores Mistborn Era 1, I think that the overall Cosmere story will benefit from the retcon, which is why Brandon did it. So.
And I see like the pros and the cons, and like I said, I just think I love the chaos of it, like just the absurdity of like that we're here, like discussing this like thing that Brandon just said. The fact that it's not in books still, like, but we've all just like we're slowly like embracing it, even though it hasn't been like canonized in a book. It's just a weird fandom thing.
Is it canon? So is it canonized then? When Harmonium is split in the Lost Metal, is that pure atium or is that the atium alloy?
That's pure. Yeah, that's the
pure.
first instance we've seen of pure ATM.
Did anybody use it? Nobody used it, right?
Mm-mm.
I didn't think so. Because Wax got the Rasium piece, but so did
Wax. The thing is, Wax probably would have had it in his system. He just didn't burn it, or at least wasn't aware of it when he did.
Maybe.
I have a hard time believing that he
say.
only got Lerasium in his system and not Atium. I feel like he would have gotten both.
It might be like, I don't know, maybe there's like, I don't know, not enough of it to like have been like useful or something.
Sure, maybe. Well, how do you guys? I guess we're getting. I was going to ask a question, but it had nothing to do with the.
CJ's tried to talk a couple times. I think he's been muted. So if you've been talking this whole time, CJ, I think you've been muted for a minute.
Oh no!
Oh no!
I haven't heard you talk in probably 10 minutes.
I was going to ask a question, but it had nothing to do with the iceberg.
Yeah, I promise we're not ignoring you, bud.
What else is on the iceberg?
Oh no!
No sound, buddy.
CJ.
Can other people hear us? I assume they can, but it would be good to know that we're not just sitting here.
The comments have been responding to us.
Yeah, his thing when he talks, his thing lights up like he's talking, but there's no sound coming. That is unfortunate. Well, I do want to not to jump off that, but while he's working on his stuff, the one thing I do want to put on here, the canon, the yellow canon thing that says Hoyd offered endowment. That's not canon, right?
That's just Wob. And even then,
it's not even about it being a Wob though. It's never that he was offered endowment. It's that he would have. The question was, what shard would Hoyd have picked? And then he said, well, if he would have picked the shard, he probably would have picked endowment. That's not saying that's the one he was offered and turned down, though.
No, it's not even close to the same.
We don't know for a fact which one he turned down.
I do think it's cool to point out. I like that he said Sanderson didn't create Naz. I think that's a good thing to point out because it's not important to the Cosmere in any way at all. It's just like a fun little tidbit that he actually borrowed Naz from. Is it Dan, right? Or is Naz a Peter character?
I thought it was. Was it not Isaac?
Oh, it is Isaac. You're totally right.
I thought it was Isaac because when Isaac's story is Naz is his character that he's gonna write a story about, right? Isn't Isaac's story eventually gonna be like a Naz origin story?
Yes, yeah, it is.
Not origin story. It's like an Era 2 setting.
Oh, okay.
But it's like a Naz POV though, right?
Oh, yeah.
I feel really bad that CJ's hosting this and he's frozen and the night.
I know. Not frozen. He's moving.
He's just an observer who's hosting. Sorry, buddy.
Do you
want to restart
there we go. There we go.
Oh, there you are.
Hey.
CJ.
Who knows?
What did you do?
Who knows? I literally changed it and then put it back and hooray.
And hooray.
That's really funny. That's really funny. Thank you, Jeremie. There is a non-zero chance I would have been another 20 minutes. Just like
well, I just happened to look over at you and see you talking, and I'm like, hold on. How long has he been doing this for? Because I felt like it was just me, Seth, and Josh for a minute, like just talking. I was like, I wonder why CJ's not taking part. And then
That's
lo and behold,
funny. That's funny.
I feel like my phone screen is like too small to like see people's lips moving.
When I have this
What do
like
you,
microphone
what do you-
hiding half of it, so
what do you guys think? How do you describe what he means by the Discord conspiracy? What do you think he means by that?
I think he's probably just talking about Harmony becoming Discord.
Yeah.
He's made it canon, though. Do we consider that canon?
I mean,
Is it
what
actually
is-
canon? I don't
what's
think
the,
it is.
What's the
No,
prophecy?
he has
They
it-
will
he has it
name me
listed.
Discord or something.
Oh, he has it in canon. No, it's definitely not canon. I think it's fan accepted almost to a canon level, but it's not ever in any text. I don't even think Wobbs confirm it.
I mean, you have there's the mention. Telson says in Lost Metal, Harmony knows he's getting impotent. That Discord is near, and so he created you a sword. Yada yada yada. So like, Telson mentions the concept, and then at the end when Kelsier meets with Sazed, like Kelsier has like sees like two versions, like the dark version like falling behind. So to me, it's like pretty
Wait.
heavy freaking implied.
Yeah,
like,
I think. Well, and I agree with that. Like, I think it's an inevitability. I think that's where we're going. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know if we're at the point where we could call that. I mean, you're right. It is. It's practically there, but it's not quite there.
Well, it just depends on what you mean
Wayne
by
sees
it
Dark
also.
Harmony as well.
Like, if you
Yeah, that's
mean,
fair.
is he currently Discord as of the end of Era 2? I don't think you could say that is canon, but you could definitely say Harmony could be recharacterized as Discord is a canon statement, right? Like that.
Yeah,
that people are
I agree.
expecting it in universe. That part is canon.
Yeah, I agree. Discord is the other side of that coin. I don't disagree with that.
So can I branch off of that actually real quick?
Sure.
So there's multiple Wobbs that say something along the lines. Sorry, I just went up and down the stairs. I'm out of breath now.
Actually, it's my turn to step off. You guys keep going. I'll be right back.
When a shard changes vessels, the name or the intent of the shard can slightly alter as well, right?
Yes.
I think that
Do you guys think that the intent of Odium might slightly change?
I would say I might push back slightly. Like, well, it's kind of a question of does the intent change or does the interpretation of the intent change, which is probably like overly pedantic. I think that there is room for Tarvangian to interpret Odium in a different way. But it's really tough to say like how, to what extent.
Yeah. I think we're, the caveat that you're putting there, Josh, is we wouldn't want to say something like, I could take up Odium and interpret it as the shard of preservation. Like, I wouldn't be able to change it categorically in that way.
Yeah. Even like, so like the question really, the question, Zeth, what am I calling you, Zeth? Seth's question is like, can Tarvangian, can Odium become passion, like truly, or is sort of the odious aspect of it like too deeply ingrained in what that intent is for even him to like push against it?
Yeah, I mean, Ray's,
assuming he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, Ray's and Hoyt have dramatically different interpretations of what that intent is supposed to be. I mean, they describe it as God's judgment, or God's wrath divorced from the better parts that would temper it, or something to that effect. Which is very different than
there's
just
also
being
things
passionate.
in the preview chapters. There's things in the preview chapters that are making me wonder about this too.
In the already released preview chapters, or
no?
There we go.
Good catch.
You're good.
Yeah.
We'll get there soon. Drang says the way Taravangian thinks and mind alters will make the intent of the shard difficult. I'm intrigued to see if Taravangian continues to have the cultivation effect of like intense moments of intense intellect and moments of intense emotion, and how that would interact with the already personality warping effects of a shard. That's really interesting to me. While we're here, cultivation is a dragon. We talked about that a little bit earlier tonight.
Yep.
That's one of those that I'm 90% certain I was able to pick up all on my own in Rhythm of War. When you start talking about like the only dragon I know is nearby and she wouldn't be very happy with me. And then I think when she meets with Taravangian, he describes like there being this huge form behind her that's different than her own. Drang followed up, why would she do that to Taravangian, make him have the dual intellect and emotion, if she didn't want to cultivate the intent of odium?
I think there's other things she could be trying to cultivate with that. Like, I don't think that has to be an end into itself.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. That is kind of like, it could totally be.
Or maybe somebody who has the capacity to shift to a purely clinical mode could ignore the passion, and then someone who can experience the passion would still be able to like still align with the shard, but then in those moments of pure intellect, maybe hold it back a little bit. I could see that. This is one that I've seen people talk about, and I do not agree with it being a correct statement. So some of these I think charitably I would say some of these are things that people talk about but aren't necessarily correct. Spiritual realm equals the beyond is on here in tier 4. I'm pretty heavily against that concept.
No, I don't think it is at all.
Yeah, I guess they put that there to like, where's that at?
We skipped down a tier at some point, and we might pop back up, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Is that? I can't tell my screen. Is that red or pink?
I've got that.
Which one?
I've got that as red.
It's right in the middle.
It is considered
Which
a
one?
fan comment.
Yeah, it's red.
Spiritual realm equals the beyond.
Yeah, and
some fans, I guess.
Definitely an
inspiration.
Oh, I think
That can't
that's
be true.
I think that's probably confirmed false, because
it
the
can't
spiritual
be true.
realm is, we know that it's possible to go to the spiritual realm because that's the premise of what
that's
is
in
going
our
to.
shards. The shards exist in the spiritual realm.
And even the shards don't know what's in the beyond.
Yeah. So that's 100% not. That's not even a question of is it a theory or not.
Boom.
maybe it was meant to be an unequal sign.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think at that level it also is, because it's in red, that means it's a fan theory, not necessarily a true statement. I think is the way to think about it.
Well, it's a
common thing
terrible
people
fan
get
theory.
confused.
But you know what? I was like, I want to say it was at DragonCon. I was talking with somebody and they made a statement like that. And I was like, oh, no, that's like the spirit.
Yeah.
But you can see how it would easily happen. Spiritual realm of spirits.
Yeah.
Spirits go there when you die. I mean,
It's a very common misconception.
Yeah. Let's see.
I think that the spirits go through the spiritual realm on their way to the beyond. I think they go through all three realms.
Yeah.
I like that. What's wrong with that?
They go from the physical to the cognitive through the spiritual and then into the beyond.
Here's another equal sign. This one's in
I
yellow.
don't even.
Seth, go ahead.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, we're in.
Oh no, sorry. I was just looking for it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's the Words of Radiance retcon. What's the Well of Ascension retcon?
Is it Hoyd or no? Kelsier not being able to be there.
It might be Hoyd.
I think it's Kelsier not being able to be at the Well of Ascension to talk to Sazed, right? Sazed hears a voice. Sazed hears a voice that's like, "There's metal inside you, Sazed. He didn't take all of your metals," and that voice was originally intended to be Kelsier, but it was not possible to work out for him to be there for some reason. I don't know why. He was probably off doing something.
He's trapped at the well.
Oh, he's trapped in the well.
He's trapped in the well at the moment.
Just have his voice reach out a little further. Come on.
he just yelled out. He's like,
well, he does. I mean, he does, right? Travel when Ruin goes out, he travels with Ruin, right?
Yeah.
Like he can expand his.
He sends his voice out.
That's true. Yeah.
Certain things. That would be an easy way to. It would be a time when Ruin was close to Sazed and Kelsier can. Right? That kind of happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe that was during one of his moments pouting about the nobles.
Like a Mistborn. There's like I guess it's like a Mistborn Prime or there's some version of like.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's out there, a draft that has like at a well, and there's like multiple mist spirits. Like I think like other shards like had a mist spirit that was like present for the thing happening. It's a really weird scene, but
interesting.
I wondered if he might be referring to that, but that's not a retcon. That's just like early draft / versions.
How do y'all feel about endowment?
I can't remember any other Well of Ascension retcons.
Endowment being 5 being a canon statement. How do we feel about the numbers for shards?
Numbers, I feel like shouldn't be stated as canon.
So
I'll make a wob on it.
Yeah, I'll make the argument for the 5. There's the 5 visions, the 5 scholars. I think the Tear of Edgley has 5 leaves or 5 like tips.
Yeah.
So that's the basic theory on endowment equaling 5. Honor 10. I mean, 10 Orders of Knights Radiant, 10 Heralds, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like honor is 10, odium is 9. To me, those are like clearly canon. Endowment, I feel like, is more like theory, but
yeah, that's fair.
It's a very reasonable one.
Preservation being 16.
It just that implies that there's a shard for every number, and there's a shard for 1. Having a shard where their number is 1 just kind of feels weird.
No, I can accept it. Dominion. Dominion wants to make all things under 1 dominion. I don't know. I could see it, but I do doubt that Brandon is going to have like, oh, every shard has like a number that's going to be plot relevant to the story.
Yeah. I know that there are.
Where was endowment? Do we skip over it?
Oh, it's in the. It's back in the previous tier. Endowment equals 5 is their theory.
Yeah, it's weird that they have endowment. They had virtuosity equals 13 on tier 4, which I also think is kind of maybe not quite enough to be canonical. Like the number 13 comes up a couple times in Yumi, but not
sure.
Like nothing like honor is 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with honor and preservation being in that tier above. I probably would have put odium there as well, being 9. Silverlight. Anybody want to tell us what Silverlight is?
The university I want to go to.
It's a city in the cognitive realm made up of a bunch of universities that study the cosmos.
Well, I think
it's right.
I think the university came after. I think the university took the already existing Silverlight city and turned part of it into a university campus. Is the vibe I've always gotten.
Sure.
Because we know as well that there's actual like business buildings. Brandon has basically said that.
Well, yeah, it's a city. But wasn't it built by the World Hoppers?
It was built by dragons.
World Hoppers. Dragon World Hoppers, right?
Sure. Dragon World Hoppers, yeah.
Everything's
who
cooler
were
when you
studying
add
the
dragons.
Cosmere. I just felt like it was originally it was a city founded by scholars.
What about?
I don't know why in my brain, when I think world hoppers, dragons just don't fit in that for some reason.
I think
don't
Zysis
count.
would love to have a conversation with you about that.
Are you racist against dragons?
You could make that argument, except for the fact that you could say the same thing about humans then, because humans exist all over the Cosmere.
I just feel like being a world hopper is just an innate part of being a dragon almost.
You can make that same argument about humans.
You're right. Maybe I am racist, like Josh said.
I was gonna say I think you're being dragon racist.
Dragonist.
Draconist.
I'm looking back through words of Brandon about Silverlight right now, and I love seeing little comments he makes like, the Silverlight novella probably needs to wait until I've done the Threnody novel. And this is back in May of 2019, and I'm just like, what? The Threnody what? You don't have time for this, man.
The Threnody what? I know. Am I crazy, or do I remember Brandon saying he actually regrets promising the Nightblood novel?
It was a great experience.
I don't recall that.
I know he regrets.
I think I would recall that because I like at this point, like I'm less interested in a Nightblood novel. Like I'd rather, I don't know, see more. Honestly, it was the secret projects. Like I thought the secret projects were so much fun. New planet, new characters, just something like totally out of nowhere. I thought was a lot of fun. And that sounds like Brandon writing another secret project like that sounds more fun to me than a sequel than like a novel slotted between a Gnome Point Warbreaker and another Gnome Point Wave, like Words of Raid. Like it's a story that has to like fill in like a gap that's already like that's largely filled in. I don't know. I'd rather like see something else.
Yeah. My eyes just glanced over the Mare equals Bleeder, and I had never heard that fan theory before.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mare is just full of like what? Mare's weird.
I don't like that one at all.
I don't like it either, but yeah.
So, Josh, you sound more familiar with it. Do you want to talk us through the basic tenet of Mare equals Bleeder?
Oh no, I'm not that familiar with it, but I have heard it. I mean, I don't think there is much to it. Like it's like the Chondra thing, right? Like once you have Chondras, it's like, oh, that person's a Chondra. Oh, that person's a Chondra, and like it's when you already have Bleeder, and it's like, oh, Palm was Lessie, and then comes back and is Bleeder. It's kind of like, oh, it's just like this like aluminum foil hat. Like how like insane can we make this? Like, oh, it was actually all the way back to Mare. She was Mare, and then she was Wax's wife too. I think it's just like reaching for like the most insane. Like, how crazy can we make this theory go?
I feel like it just doesn't make any sense at all because we know what role Mare played in Kelsier's capture, and we also know that Bleeder Pa'alm was the Lord Ruler's personal Chondra, so it just doesn't work.
There is like somebody like the idea that like somebody betrayed the crew at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they think that Mare, there's an argument that Mare like betrayed the crew, and Kelsier like wrestles with whether he believes that or not. I'm guessing the person who said this is like, oh, it was a Chondra working for the Lord Ruler, and that's why he was betrayed.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's
I've always bought into Vin's understanding of that, which is the Allomancy betrayed them. It's like just her using Allomancy did betray them. So like those words are still true. But no one understood that because no one thought you could pierce a copper cloud. So like that couldn't be the way that it gets betrayed. It doesn't help that I think Sanderson's been very cagey.
I respect Brandon for not like giving an answer.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of just like in text confirmed that is how the Lord Ruler got him.
I don't think it was. I could be wrong, but I thought that like Vin brings it up and Kelsier's like, yeah, but no one really knows because like no one asks him what he meant by it.
I guess that's true. I took that as implied confirmation, but you're right that it's never explicitly said.
I just want to also be clear. Brandon had the opportunity to say no, Palm is not mayor, and he responded Raffo, rather than just saying no and Raffo as to who they are. It's like, come on, it's right there. Just say no. Just say no.
That's Brandon the Troll Sanderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes to troll us.
Well, if he raffoed everything that would end up being the truth, then we would all just assume that the answer to the raffo is what we assume it is. He's got to raffo some stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Does Ammon, do you want to jump in? And I think that is an important thing to know. And I also really like that he put the sleepless right the blurbs. That's another thing that I feel like a lot of people just don't know. And I think it's such a cool little world building tidbit. It's a really cool thing that I think just adds to the world building.
Yeah.
I want to know when we're going to get the Wind and Truth sleepless blurb. Usually they share them before the book's out.
That's a fair point.
That's true.
Yeah, there would probably be some wisdom in like editing this up a little bit to take some of the more crazy things off and highlight the things that are like, hey, you as a fan might want to know these things. I think that's totally fair.
What is the Dumbledore essay? That's not words I've ever heard of before.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know the Dumbledore essay?
But
Okay, never mind.
It's not the worst thing in the world. It as I understand it, it was Brandon responding to J.K. Rowling revealing Dumbledore's sexuality, right? Is that the and people had many large and big emotions about that, or am I wrong?
It is about that, but he's not like I don't think it's super critical. I think he doesn't like it. It's partly about that, and partly it's also just kind of partly about other opinions he had at the time surrounding gay marriage, largely, and the politics of it. Yeah. In a 2008-ish context or whatever. It's still out there. You can like find the essay. It used to be like really easy to find, and then he kind of like, I think a lot of people kept referencing it, being like, oh, he still thinks this, and he kind of moved it to I think he took it down and like links it from like way back. So the only way you can get to it is if you're like specifically are looking for it, or go through his like FAQ page that's like, I don't believe this.
He's mentioned multiple times in interviews and everything that he's grown past a lot of the things from back then. So
it's not like it's probably not like as negative as you might imagine from that description of it. Like it's at the time it was written, I would say it was a maybe conservative leaning, but fairly moderate opinion about the whole issue.
It was like 2007. I remember. I mean, I don't remember this specific things. I didn't know Brandon back then, but like in 2007, you had political leaders like Barack Obama running for president as a left-leaning Democrat who said he was against gay marriage. Like that was pretty part of the normal lexicon back then to be. You know what I mean? He was the most progressive president we had ever had at that point. And he was against it at that time. So it's not crazy to accept that Brandon has evolved his views on it since then. Like,
oh yeah, and he obviously has. But yeah, you're right. That's not really on topic. Creationism is true in the Cosmere. He has that as red, which is fan theory, which seems strange to me because we literally have an entire planet where the shards created humans.
But that's creation of a planet. I think
maybe
with this person,
like
OG
humans.
Yeah, I think they're talking like Adonalsium created everything, as opposed to evolution created Adonalsium. Would be my theory. There is what they're trying to get at.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay, I can see that.
Even then, the humans of Scadrial were created and made in the same image as the original humans created by Adonalsium that already existed, right? So I mean,
you do have the line that the like it's not well. So, anyways, what else we got?
I poked at him with Cosmere, not a galaxy. That to me was a strange place to stake as a canon statement.
It's the reason they put it there is because the history
It's
of it. I think probably
isn't the
there was
Cosmere multiple galaxies, right?
No, it's even less. It's so when Arcanum Unbounded came out, Brandon at that time, Brandon was saying that the Cosmere is a dwarf galaxy, is what he said. And then since then, at some point, they looked and I guess decided they wanted it to be like even closer than that. And so now he's been saying, the last I saw, I think he used the term star cluster. And so I think it's included as a statement. I've seen over the years, I've seen people be like, "Oh, the Cosmere is a galaxy" because of that thing Brandon said, and I think it's almost like let me slip this in here to inform people otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm among them. I've had the dwarf galaxy.
I think you could have made the
You really
argument.
don't care either way, I think. Yeah, I think either way would have been fine with me.
I think his reason for wanting it to be smaller is like travel times. Like if you're doing like conventional, well, maybe not conventional is maybe not the right word, but like travel through space without like warping technology of some kind.
FTL is fast, but it's not like it's warp or hyper space, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
The reason the galaxy works in Star Wars is because you have these hyperspace tunnels that can get you from A to B in a really fast, like wormhole type of way.
So he might have been trying to avoid the necessity for that.
Yeah, because hyperspace in Star Wars are like these. It's a built-in mechanic of like highways basically that are in space. That's what do you think? Which, speaking of D&D, Seth, you had not to derail it from that, but the only reason I was wondering because the 15th is okay, but that's also CJ's Stormlight Nights, so I don't want to necessarily interrupt that. Anyways, back on topic.
Do you want to talk about Nightblood equals Shardblade?
Sure.
Stormlight Nights, so I don't want to necessarily interrupt that. Anyways, back on topic.
Do you want to talk about Nightblood equals Shardblade?
Sure.
I agree with that. I think it was created in the image of a Shardblade, but it's not a Shardblade. It doesn't. The way it was created.
It's fascinating. Shardblade being any. It's fascinating. Shardblade being any. Shardblade being a basically a spren that is turned into or formed into in the shape of metal that is being used as a weapon. Like in the same way, I think fabrials and shardblades and chickens and like these are all category that can include multiple options.
Right. Whereas Nightblood is the opposite. Nightblood is a sword that has been basically given a spren to inhabit it. That's a really bad explanation, but kind of.
Oh well, I mean that's why I was saying the opposite. I was saying that he counts because he has the sentience of a spren. He just is stuck as a blade, but I don't see that.
Okay,
as
so you are saying he does count?
Yeah. I would say he's like
but he doesn't do the same though.
So I guess I guess the argument would be then. So what is? I guess the argument then would have to be based on the exact mechanics of how awakening work.
Sure.
What would you consider an awakened sapient object or sentient object? Right, like because now it can speak and think. Is that automatically a spren? Does that make it you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it has.
The 17th Shard podcast had a whole episode where they kind of dove into this, and they started talking about the difference between spren and AI in the Cosmere and how that's a very blurry line and will probably continue to get blurrier. as the Cosmere progresses in the Cosmere, and how that's a very blurry line and will probably continue to get blurrier as the Cosmere progresses. Because at what point does a computer become like completely sentient and actually like have investiture? Does the presence of investiture make the AI, or does the intelligence of an AI attract investiture? They were kind of talking about the difference between that. I thought that was a really good, really cool episode.
And I could see it, except that investiture in and of itself is like a natural mechanic of the Cosmere. It's a natural, you know what I mean? It's a so if something is created with investiture, does that count as a like? I don't know. I guess it's how you would consider investiture. If you look at investiture as anything as like you would electricity in our world or something, then I guess maybe. But if you look at it as a naturally, which I guess electricity is also a naturally occurring thing in our world too. So I guess it just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, it gets weird really fast.
I think investiture is I don't know. It is really weird because investiture, to at least some degree, is sentient, right? Or at least can become so.
Can become so.
Yeah, enough of it.
There's a word of Brandon. I thought that he said there's a specific quote about it, and I don't know where it is, which I think is what this person is referring to. I think where Brandon said basically any highly invested weapon is a shard blade.
If he has said that, you'll have to send that to me, because I've never seen that one.
It's a little older. I think that's what he pretty much said. Like basically he said any invested sword, like highly invested sword, is a shard blade, which to me comes down to this like semantic thing of like in what sense, right? Like in a meaningful sense, no, because it's not. I totally agree with you that it's like it does not behave like a shard blade does. Like the things we normally call shard blades, Nightblood is different than those things, right?
Right, and functionally it's different because like the wounds Nightblood inflicts are very different than the wounds of a normal shard blade.
So it's I feel like it's, even if Brandon wants to say that, like that's fine, but like
I mean, he might be saying it along the same lines as how he says awakened, right? Doesn't necessarily have to mean using breath. It's just artificially granted intelligence via investiture.
So it'd be it's just he's using it as a generic term for a magically invested weapon, like you know, it's just a generic, like kind of like how So like
it's kind of like saying sprint are they said aeons, they meant seons. It's kind of like saying like sprint are seons, like our seons a sprint. It's
I didn't even notice that. Good catch.
That's funny.
It's kind of like, in one sense, sure, they are all the same thing. But if I told you, this Seon is a Spren, it would be kind of like they are the same thing. And like maybe in Cosmere terms, you can sort of say that in one sense, but in another sense, they're two very different things. So
again, so Spren
semantics.
is just a term for a cognizant, a piece of investiture who is, you know what I mean. So yeah, it makes sense. Well, was there anything else in this tier we want to talk about? Safe hands originally nudity. Did you guys talk about that when I was gone?
Oh, we did not talk about the safe hands nudity thing. And then we also have Shallan.
I mean, that's not really, that's not a big deal. That's just one of those things where
Shana
Mama.
You can do a whole thing on that one alone.
Why is that one only a fan theory?
Because it's not confirmed.
Wait, it's in red, right? So that's meta? Is that? No, it's fan. Okay.
No,
okay.
Pink is meta.
Pink is meta.
Pink is meta. That's red is fan theory.
Pink. We didn't talk about Gyne.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask about that. I don't know what that word is. So somebody enlighten me.
I don't know where the Gyne.
Where is this?
The top left corner.
Oh
Obscure, the obscure lore.
He's a guy from Silverlight.
He's a guy from Silverlight who made star charts. I think presumably the star charts in Arcanum Unbounded were like made by him. And that's all.
Okay.
That's what we know.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's it.
Guy,
Okay.
Guy made the map with multiple different orbits due to for Scadrial due to Rashik Ven and Sazed moving the planets around.
That's right.
Thanks, Gyne.
And that's like legitimately all we know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Wow.
that's correct. There could be
Some
a
of these are
Wada,
like Rhine and Mistborn. I mean, that's just I don't know why. I guess it makes sense, but it's not like she used a different name, right? So.
We have 2 wobs about Gyne. Oh no, it's a user with Gyne in their name.
Yep.
Never mind.
Yep. I just did that search as well, and I was very frustrated.
Jason, to answer your question, who made this chart? A user on Reddit named I Make RPGs posted this on Reddit, and we nabbed it.
Yep. With permission, I talked with him about it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Lift Cured Nail is listed as canon. I don't know. I think Cured is a little bit strong there.
Cured is a bit of a stretch. Yeah, it's the same phenomenon as any herald gets a little bit of clarity when somebody swears an ideal. That's all it was.
We have Obradai is on tier 4, which is a planet that we have not seen.
No, just in the one epigraph. I believe that's it, right? Is that the only mention?
Yep.
Any response to Fjorden worships devotion? That is the hottest of takes, I think, as a fan theory that I've ever heard for the Fjordans.
I think there is a wob that directly contradicts that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a misconception because in Aerilon, the name of their god is Domai. And I think it uses Aeon Omai, which means I don't remember off the top of my head. It's gonna bother me now.
I think it probably also comes from the fact that they use Skaz or Skays, however you want to say that, instead of Scions, which are splinters of Dominion.
Yeah, well, but it's devotion. That's like
This is the theory that they worship devotion,
Fjorden,
not Dominion.
Oh, does it say devotion?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is this fan theory
feels to say, incredibly false?
I know, right?
I think it's because in Aerilon they worship Domai, which uses the Aeon Omai. The name Domai, especially if you don't do like if it's just like Domi or whatever, like it looks like Dominion, right? And so like I think that there was probably some people who theorized, oh, they worship Dominion actually in Aerilon, and then that would mean that the other god would be, because there's the 2 gods and they worship one, and then the Fjordell worship the other one, and so I think that's the train of thought that makes someone go down that theory. Maybe they think it's intentionally misleading, and we're supposed to be like, oh, we know it's got to be devotion, and then you find out they're actually not what you thought they were or something. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. It's like New Relic, where you have to pretend to worship the one when really you're worshiping the other. Now, wait a minute. This is in canon? The Skays rule Fjorden?
Yeah.
Whoa. They put that as canon?
Yeah, it's in there.
I want to know where they got that from. That's
well,
wild.
I think
it's maybe a bit. So this is what we know in Elantris, chapter 62. Deloff laughed, tapping Raoden on the side of the face with the tip of his sword. The Skays are right. The Skays are right then. Elantrians are not indestructible. So there's that line, and then there's I think some words of Brandon commenting on like what they are. Oh,
The skates
so
are
many.
they're similar to they're similar to Seons, right? But they're different.
Yes,
But they're similar. They're just
So
I
in the
don't
Coppermind,
necessarily
it
think
says they
rule.
have a direct influence on
Yeah.
Fjordell politics. That's all it
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, I don't think they rule. I just think they're they have, like you said, they have a large influence.
I guess I could get behind that. The idea, like they all want a direct line to God, right? So Splinter of God would be the most directest of lines.
Yeah, sure. I don't hate it. Do we want to talk about? I guess it's not on there. Let's stay what's on here. I keep wanting to get off topic.
Harmony.
Oh, we didn't finish.
The next
Shallan,
year's like all theories, so I feel like we're gonna like go through. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Shallan is the daughter of a herald. I always want to talk about that one. I haven't heard any other argument besides Shanarok. Does anybody have any arguments that it would be a different herald at that point?
What, for Shallan's mom?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only plausible answer.
Yeah. The tall never broke certainly feeds
Agreed.
into that. The wonderful Excel spreadsheet timeline to the 17th shard. Josh, did you actually make that? I know I got it from you. Did you make the Excel spreadsheet, or who did make that? Do you remember?
I made the Excel sheet.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, the Excel sheet's mine. Someone else did the Words of Radiance timeline back in the day.
Yeah, but then that one just maps on perfectly with Gavilar's death, and man, okay. Stormfather equals big bad evil guy. Did we talk about that beyond? Do we think it's likely? Do you think it's possible? What are your thoughts?
That feels like a million layers of aluminum foil to me.
I liked that theory. Hey, you get into like Wind of Truth prologue spoilers, I think, a little bit with to fully talk about it.
Yeah, and that's So if we're not going to touch that, it's hard to get into that.
Yeah,
because it's one of those
What
things.
is House of Ashes?
Was that part of the adventure game?
Short story. Yeah. So a House of Ashes, it's like bottom left, middle-ish, middle. It's a short story, or maybe a couple of short stories in the Mistborn in one of the Mistborn adventure game supplements.
I just googled it. Yeah, it's a collection of 16 novellas made for the Mistborn RPG.
Novellas, that's a lot. But it's Brandon did not write it, and they're very not canonical. So
Oh, okay.
They're very not
Gotcha.
canonical.
I've never read them, so I can't comment beyond that.
That's fast.
It was made for what? What was it made for? I'm sorry.
The
The
Mistborn
Mistborn
RPG.
adventure game.
Yeah, one of the supplements. It wasn't in the original. I think that there was like a terrace.
This thing
I think there was like a terrace supplement that they were part of.
Yes.
was it made for one of these things?
It's yours too small on my screen. Is that the
This is the
terrace
Siege of
one?
Luthadel. It's a Siege of Luthadel.
Oh, it could be that one.
I want to open it because it has
Oh.
a mini of Vin and Kolos, but I haven't.
No, so we're talking about the RPG.
Like the upcoming one?
No, the
Not
previous
previous
No,
one.
that is the original, isn't it?
This is here. When you can look, if you want to see it again.
I didn't know the Siege of
Yeah,
Luthadel.
This is the one
that's
by,
like
it's by Crafty Games.
that's a supplement.
Okay.
As I think, right?
Yeah, it's a supplement. I don't have the original one. I just have this one. I just bought it because I buy all things Mistborn.
Love it.
And
This
while
Mistborn
I'm out-
adventure game will very soon be like the deep lore.
Okay, so that is House War.
I'm just
which is
looking at.
which is a different thing. That's an expansion set for House War, which was like a board game.
Yeah, it says it on here. Expansion for House War.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. No, so there
I'm
was the original
looking
game
at
came
tier
out.
5. Sorry, Josh.
There's You're good. There was the Mistborn Adventure game came out. There was a Terrace Rot of Copper supplement. There was an Alloy of Law supplement. Ska Tin and Dash. Alloy of Law Masks of the Past, which had like bands and Shadows of Self in it. And then there was a one for Nobles. I don't know which one had the whatever it is. House of Ashes.
Yeah, either way,
Anyways.
everything, all the Mistborn games and all that stuff that came out with companies other than Brotherwise are going to be labeled as legends, anyways, right? If you want to use the Star Wars
Legends.
stuff, yeah, if you want to use the Star Wars analogies, it's all going to be legends versus the canon stuff that's going to come out with the RPG. So with the Brotherwise, all the Brotherwise stuff will be canon.
Yup.
Is there anything else in tier 4?
I think that's probably it.
Yeah, we touched on a
I'm
lot
just-
of
you
it.
want to talk about
earlier,
safe
like the
hands?
17 kill data Nauseam thing.
I'm
No.
okay,
Yeah,
honestly.
Well, that's not even really. That's just more of a. The whole safe hand thing. That was just right. Originally, it was just supposed to be like a misogynistic thing about the females carrying shard blades, right? And then, or weapons or shard blades or something like that. And then it because of the connotations out of the Way of Kings, it kind of grew into what it is now, which is it became like a nudity thing, right? So, like the ankles in Victorian times type deal, right?
Interesting. I never put together that it had to do with women holding weapons. That's fascinating.
I'm pretty sure that somebody
Yeah,
on
yeah.
track on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot
But that's what I
that's
think it was supposed to be
potentially
what
there.
it was. That it grew out of a, which it still works, even from a a Vorinism thing, if you want to connect it to a religion thing, because like I said, that's how I've always thought of it. The whole, because you're thinking a hand, why would a hand be that way? But it's the same way that 150 years ago, that's anything on a woman's body, their ankles, like I said, was considered. You wouldn't even think about that now, but now it's, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The I wanted to comment on the dusk/dust confusion. I don't know if you guys know about this, but it was pretty fun. Someone asked, I'm trying to remember what it is now that I'm saying it as I go. Somebody asked about
Dust Bringers versus Dusk
the name
Bringers.
of the Threnody novel that Brandon was going to Brigade. Brandon made a comment about he was going to write this book called the Dusk Brigade, Dusk with a K, and we had that in wikis and stuff for a couple, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. It feels like a couple years, thinking oh, the Threnody novel is going to be called the Dusk Brigade, and then Sunlit Man came out and it has the Dust Brigade, and we realized that it was just a mistranscript, everybody misheard what Brandon had said.
Is that true? I thought Brandon has actually addressed it and he intentionally changed it because of
it was going to be
confusion.
It was going to be the Night Brigade.
Oh, okay.
And he changed it from that to Dust, but we all thought it was Dusk. So there's all these places that say oh, the Dusk Brigade, and it's not correct.
That's I feel as though I've just Mandela affected myself into an alternate world. Is it not called the Night Brigade?
Am I? Oh, I'm totally mixing that up. I said it backwards, didn't I?
It's sorry, I walked away. I heard it, but it's
You're
definitely.
wait, what's he talking about? Sorry,
I was very confused.
CJ, I was in the same thing as you. I thought I had totally Mandela affected myself as well.
Yeah, it's 100% the Night Brigade.
So it was changed to the Night Brigade, And that was part of the confusion, was like, because it changed to that and people were like, oh no, it's going to be this other thing. But it was like, there's like 2 brigades from Threnody, and they're like, one is the, like, what's going on. And it was meant to be dusk, and then it turned into dusk, and it turned into night.
See,
anyways.
And I actually took that one in a different direction. I wondered if they were referencing how when typing, people will write dusk bringers instead of dust bringers, and like 6 of the, like in typing things out. I wondered, because I've seen that happen a couple of times where someone's like, wait, the 6 of the like that confusion that happens there.
The dust.
Yeah. Because they were like, oh, what are the dust
Side
bringers?
note on that, I love Six of the Dusk. I think a lot of people hate that story, and I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know.
Wait, which story?
Hates it. Six of the
I
Dusk.
love Six of the Dusk, and I think a lot of people. It gets a lot of hate. I feel like a lot of people.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories in Arcanum Unbound.
I'm super excited for Emberdark to give it additional context.
Yep.
I think that's maybe why people don't like it, is because there's just no context to it.
The story itself is good, though. It's just a good story.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to see that. Like, I'd love to see I'm more of a live action person, but I'd love to see an animated Six of the Dusk. I mean, I'd love to see a live action one too, but you know. Because that's what I eventually want to see. I want to see that when the Cosmere gets adapted. I want to see the live action stuff and then supplemented by animated stuff. And then if there's any characters from the animated stuff, they can easily translate into live action. You're like, oh my god, that's that character from that side animated piece. Yeah. That's now in the, like, if you just live action Mistborn and Stormlight and then animate everything else, you can still bring those characters in. Like, you can animate Warbreaker and still bring in Vasher and Vivenna as characters in Stormlight. Just translate them into the real screen. That's all. Anyways.
Yeah. All right, we're going into the next tier where it is fan theories abound.
Yeah, seriously. I was looking at that, and do you see how many times the evil is written on there?
Yeah. The evil is odium.
I am
the
now.
evil is hard. The evil equals mercy.
Evil equals the shroud. I do think I like...
I don't know why there's so many theories about the evil. I thought it was pretty clear that the evil was just a twisted remnant of the shard from Trinity, which now ambition. Thank you.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty clear that it was just a twisted splinter, right? Is there more to it than that?
No, I mean I would tend to agree with that.
Would that, when they say the shroud,
maybe I Make RPGs is especially interested in the evil and likes wants something more.
Yeah.
So we've already discussed, like, we discussed the Six of Dust Trunk novel. That's so.
Yep, that's good.
I've never read Invention Founded Silverlight. I've never read that one.
I feel like that can't be true.
I feel like that's just something somebody threw out, and there's really no basis behind it, other than the fact that Invention is a shard who had found, a city full of scholars.
But, like, I guess we don't know how old Silverlight is, but the fact that it was built by dragons to me implies pre-shattering.
Did it say it was built by dragons? Where's that at? Because I didn't know that, and that's probably me. But I didn't know that.
Brandon said that in a WOB in a 17th Shard interview.
That was the dragon WOB, the one that where he was
the big one.
My understanding of Silverlight, the city, was it was founded by Worldhopper scholars, and it kind of grew out of that, and multiple universities popped up, and that was kind of always my understanding of Silverlight.
No, yeah, it was 2022. There was a big WOB where Brandon said that it was a ancient dragon city that was later on inhabited by humans.
Well, and then, it could be...
was once upon a time a bunch of dragon palaces. They all still have their skyscrapers there, basically. Yeah.
Well, and it could be...
So I guess then the question would be, was it Silverlight then, or was it just, an existing thing, and then Silverlight became a thing when the Scholars invented. You know what I mean? I guess it just depends. Ruin created Nightblood. That I don't understand. Does anybody want to explain that one? Because I don't get that one either.
That one doesn't make any sense to me.
There's a connection somewhere there.
So I guess that question then would be: what time did the mini war happen? Timeline wise, was the mini war when it comes to? Was that during Era 1 or previous? Was that during like Era 1 Scadrial? I would assume then. But Ruin would have been imprisoned at that point, right? So how could he have influenced the founding? That means the mini war would have had to have taken place during Classical Scadrial, right? For him to have influenced it, it would have had to have taken place during Classical Scadrial. Because that would have been the only time he was free enough to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Or am I wrong? I could be wrong, but because during the Final Empire, that 1,000 years he was imprisoned, there's no way he would have been able to do it at that point. He could barely influence Scadrial.
Right.
There is a word of Brandon from 2018. Does Nightblood contain any of Ruin's investiture? And Brandon said yes, technically, which
but you can make
there's a lot of wiggle room.
Well, yeah, isn't that the same argument you make? Because he's made that same thing though before. Anytime you ask if anything has a certain type of, all of them have every type of. Because Zeta Nauseam was involved in all things, and
I do want to finish it. Am I still frozen? Test.
No, you're good. You're good.
Cool.
You're a little choppy, but you're okay.
Yeah. He does finish it by saying, though, I'm not wiggling around. I'm not talking the way you think I am. I am talking the way you actually mean it. So I don't know. He meant something more than just.
So, I think even if so, my guess is that it has consumed. It has consumed beings or things that were invested by Ruin, and now it's like part of him because he's consumed that investiture.
Ooh, I like that.
Even if it's beyond that, my guess would be that like maybe like multiple shards is worth like investiture is involved. I'm very skeptical that like what was the claim? What was the statement? Ruin created Nightblood is like another whole like level beyond just it containing Ruin's investiture.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That feels kind of wild to me.
Yeah, if it has ruinous investiture, if Nightblood has ruinous investiture, that makes sense. Just like it would have endowment and now honor and cultivation, just because of the different planets it's been on and who it's killed and pulled that investiture in. But the timeline don't work for Ruin stating. Do we know the timeline of when the many war took place in reference to Scadrial?
I don't think we do. Oh.
Well, so
we do. We should have it.
We should, because we know when Warbreaker takes place in reference to everything, right? And then the many war took place 300 years, 500 years, 300 years.
I've got a Cosmere timeline. There's a lot of wiggle room on it, so I don't know.
The baseline is
I can process it.
That the scholars would have visited Roshar after the Recreants because Vasher didn't know about sentient Spren, right? So that's 2,000-ish years before. I mean, it's a window of time anytime from 2,000 years before Stormlight 1 up until hundreds of years before Stormlight 1.
Well, and then Classical Scadrial would have been around 1,300 years prior to Stormlight.
Yeah, at minimum.
The Way of Kings, right? Mm-hmm. Era 1's about 300 years prior, and then 1,000 years prior to that. So right around 1,300 years.
So
Alendi specifically.
300 years passes from Hero of Ages to Alloy of Law. Yes. Warbreaker happens somewhere in between that gap.
Okay.
And the mini war was 300 years prior to Warbreaker.
So the timeline still doesn't work because
So it doesn't really quite work.
Warbreaker would have probably taken place while the Final Empire was up and running, which means Ruin would have been imprisoned.
Yeah, and even
because you'd have to go back. You'd have to go back at least 1,300 years to a point when Ruin wasn't.
Yeah.
And even then, well, no, actually, we don't know how long Ruin was in prison for, right? Because he could have been in prison even during that time of classical Scadria, hence the well.
Yeah.
So I know he was imprisoned at that point during the well, because we don't know, because there's theories out there that I've seen of, there was another hero 1,000 years before Alendi who had imprisoned him somehow, right? Because he had to have been imprisoned at the time Alendi was going to the well, so he was in prison before that. And there's how many heroes were there prior to that had taken up the power and not let go and used it, right? How many instances of him being? Because I think it was probably more than one. That there was other heroes besides Vin and besides Alendi and besides.
You really just highlighted for me a metaphor that I've never seen there before of the priest versus high priest argument, like going from Jewish to Christian theology. You have a high priest who has to go up once a year to make an atonement, and now you have Sazed, who is the priest of ages, who can be there forever doing the things so you don't have to have a hero come once every 1,000 years anymore. It's really interesting. Oh.
Well, because I think because he had to have been in prison prior to that. So was that the first time that anybody picked up the power and didn't let go and Ratchet became the Lord Ruler? But somebody could have easily picked up the power 1,000 years before that and did something with the power that didn't become the Lord Ruler. Ratchet was just a jerk and messed everything up. But somebody prior to that could have picked it up and been like, because I made a theory video one time, how true it is or not, but I made a theory video one time saying that's how Mistings were created in the first place, and it was just a rarity. Because Feruchemy is supposed to be the ingrained magic system of Scadrial, right? Not Mistings. Where did Mistings even come from? They were rare during classical Scadria, but they existed. Well, why were they there in the first place? How did it become a thing? Because he didn't create Lerasium until after that, right? Until after Lerasium was created for Rashik, right? And for Rashik's people. So I have lots of thoughts on classical Scadrial.
Yeah.
But again, that stems from Mistborn being my favorite series. So,
speaking of Mistborn, Kelsier has a Dawn Shard.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Never seen that one.
Yeah.
I think that can't be true.
I think they tried to tie it to when Preservation looks in his eyes and is like, "Pah!" that moment. But I would agree there's nothing to indicate what happens with Risen happened to him.
Is there a chance that Kelsier gets a Dawn Shard? Yes, absolutely there is. But does he already have one or has had one? I don't think so.
I'm guessing the theory is more like an Era 2 timeline. They think maybe he has one in the present.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but
I don't either. I feel like a Dawn Shard would almost be a vessel to solve some of his problems that he's having. Because I don't even think he knows
the Dawn.
I feel
please don't give Kelsier a Dawn Shard.
Yeah, please.
as a Kelsier lover,
I would not be surprised if at some point he ends up with one, just because look at some of the characters that have already kind of had one or have one. But I feel like if he doesn't even know they exist, and if he did know they exist, he would already be trying to acquire one.
Kelsier acquiring a Dawn Shard by the end of Era 3 sounds not unlikely.
Yeah. But for this one, I feel like some of these theories are just things that people have just thrown, taken clay and thrown it at the wall, and now he just picked out some of them and put them on here because some of them are strange.
Oh, 100%. But then you have very logical ones, non-Scadrian god metals. That to me is straight as an arrow, not even a question. It's
that
just
should be higher tier.
Yeah.
Well, and even some of these aren't even so much the autonomy equal Jadeth. I thought that was confirmed. Was that not confirmed?
It's Wob mostly confirmed. Brandon didn't say anything, but somebody asked, and Brandon looked at the camera, smiled, and said, "You're a very smart person."
Okay.
That was it.
I'm wondering because in my brain I'm thinking Jadeth is an avatar of autonomy. That was already in here. So I'm like, why do I think that is canon? But that might be what it's from then.
I consider it canon, but it might not be.
That's fair, but he does have other things in here that are Wobs that he considers canon, though, does he not?
Oh, he definitely does. We already talked about the Hoyd endowment one.
Yeah. Oh, everybody left.
Bye.
Well, anyway, since they're gone, and we can talk about D&D real quick. So you can let me know. So I know that Mati can't make it at all, just
Okay.
because he can do it in the mornings right now. Amy's good for some of those other dates. Zach said that Sunday works best for him. My only issue though with Sunday is I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to because we would go live because I would do what we've been doing and I would share it live on TikTok. I don't want to interrupt CJ's Cosmere Sundays.
Sure.
But I also really want to play. And CJ actually had mentioned possibly joining us. I don't know if he's still considering that, but
I consider
more
all
than willing to.
things.
Yeah, I'll have to look at my schedule and let you know, but I could probably make any of them work, to be honest.
I really like to, and like I said, CJ, that sorry, because you and Josh both left, so we went off topic a little bit. But that invitation is still extended, and I would extend it to everybody. I'd be more than willing to add. I can easily add characters in. The current story, we're in the middle of the town. It's very easy to add people in.
Yeah.
So.
I will take a look. My brain has been in travel mode here lately.
No, you're fine, and it's not a big deal. Like I said, I was just trying to. I feel like, and obviously DM wise, we haven't played in months, and I feel like I have to take the lead on trying to lock that down. But I also don't want to pressure everybody because I want it to be fun, right? I don't want everybody to feel pressured into figuring out a date. But I also,
Yep, it's the balance.
But,
it is important.
So I just found out my tattoo artist likes D&D, so I'm thinking I'm going to try to work with him to get something set.
Hey, nice. Speaking of tattoo.
Nice. Yeah, I'm getting one on. I'm doing my consult for my next one on Sunday, and then I'm hoping to get it next week. So I'm getting a big one though. I'm getting one that's going to go down my entire bicep and wrap around onto my forearm. So it's not quite a half. It's pretty big.
I wanted to do a big one. I mean, I've started working on this one, which is going to be like a full 3/4 sleeve eventually, but turns out I can't handle my wrist getting tattooed. I passed out
Really?
because it hurt so bad.
You passed out? I got mine.
I legit this one here, nothing, no pain like at all. This one, I straight up passed out.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's pain tolerance and pain areas are different. I got this done and I didn't think it was too bad.
Yeah, no, this forearm one was fine. This was great. Not a problem at all. But
this was the worst one I got. This one was
really
painful when I got it right towards the armpit.
Oh man. But anyway, we're buying a house now, so money is significantly tighter than we thought it was going to be.
My wife and I have a tattoo credit card that we use specifically for tattoos. It has a $3,000 limit, and we'll each get a tattoo, pay it down, and then do it again.
Nice. That's actually kind of a cool idea.
I have my next 3 planned out. The next one's not Cosmere related, but my 2 after that will be my first 2 Cosmere ones. I'm getting pewter, and then I'm getting the Ghost Blood symbol on my wrist.
Nice.
So.
I eventually want to work this into a bigger piece. I just don't know what it'll be yet.
Yeah. Anyways. Sorry.
Oh, so we do have Cell is tiny.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, please.
I did these to give out. I got these to give out at
nice.
Hell yeah!
Hey,
that's 100% what I want to get. It real little right here on my wrist, just real little, just like as like a little secret squirrel thing for fellow Cosmere fans. What is that? Is that a Ghost Blood symbol? That's the plan. I might actually hide it somewhere in this tree. I don't know, but I want to get it somewhere inconspicuous that it's just kind of like there and you wouldn't really pay attention to it. So
he's a really big Mazda fan.
That's 100% what people are going to be like. You have the Mazda symbol tattooed on your.
No, it's a secret organization.
My artist, I think my tattoo guy. I haven't talked to him about it yet, but he might even be able because I want it so small. He might even just throw it in when I'm getting another tattoo done. I don't know yet. So.
We had a couple of questions. Jason, so we'll do Jason's first. Jason said, "Which World Hopper ball time are you guys aiming for?"
I have no idea.
Friday night.
I'm not going to do so.
Yeah, I'm doing the second one on Friday.
I'm trying to decide if I can afford it. Like I said, we're in the middle of buying a house, so money's kind of tight.
Yep, this is fair.
Yeah, I already gave my ticket away. I gave it to somebody you all know, but I won't say names. So.
Fabulous.
So are you not going?
Well, I don't know if you all know. I'm not going. I can't go. So I I did buy a ticket and I gave it away. So I told him just to tell hi to everybody for me. So hopefully he does that if he remembers.
Is it who I might be thinking of?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. It's somebody who you wouldn't think would need a ticket, but I helped them out. So
Brandon Sanderson. He got Brandon Sanderson a ticket to his own convention.
I gave it directly.
Wait. I think I might. I think I know who it is.
Are they bigger than
you
a
guys-
bread box?
Are they bigger
How many
than
people? There's only 6 people. Do you guys know who gave me this? Do you guys know who did this for me?
Yes, yes, I do.
Who was able to get this done for me
Yep.
on the first edition? That's who I gave it to.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad he's able to come. I was going to be a bit upset if he wasn't able to come.
So, which I felt like that was a fair trade for what he got me. So,
Yeah, totally.
And then Mal was asking if Jeremie, y'all are going to stream the D&D game when you play.
yes, we usually do. I usually just screen share my Discord.
Nice.
So absolutely, like I said, we just got to nail down a date and players.
Yeah.
So, because like I said, some of our main PCs, like Mati, he can't make it. His schedule is way too busy. So, but Amy's down. I don't know about Zach yet because I haven't got Zach and Seth. So really, just the only one that's locked down is me and Amy. So
Nice.
and like I said, I don't mind Sundays, but the only reason I don't really want to do this, usually Sundays work best because I'm off Sundays and Mondays. But I'm on staycation the next week and a half. I took a week and a half off work just to reset.
Nice.
So that's why Tuesday and Thursday actually work for me.
I need to do that.
Yeah, originally it wasn't supposed to be a staycation. I put in for this last year because we were originally going to Disney this year at this time. But now we're not because, well, it doesn't matter. My daughter qualifies for Make-A-Wish, so we're thinking about going next year now if we can get the Make-A-Wish stuff figured out. And if we can, great, we're going to go next year. So we're going to save the money by not going this year. So
There you go. Yeah, that works out
that's the plan.
in a bittersweet kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, she's okay. Like, it's not. But I thought Make-A-Wish was only for terminal kids, but it's for kids who survive terminal illnesses, which she did. So, and she's permanently disabled due to that terminal illness that it wasn't terminal. It's terminal. She died, but she survived a potentially terminal. She survived a potentially terminal illness as a baby. She is permanently disabled from it, but she's fine. She's a happy kid. But because of that, she qualifies for Make-A-Wish. And so we talked about, we're waiting probably for next year to go. So, and then if for some reason it falls through and we don't get to do it, we're just going to go. But anyways, back to normal, the other stuff.
They do have, I think, a reference to quadrant theory on here. They have the Dawn Shard chart in the middle.
Oh, that probably is quadrant theory.
Which I had a new wrinkle with quadrant theory come up that I wanted to talk about, which is what is the likelihood that there are places where a shard overlaps with 2 Dawn Shard intents. So let me back up first. Basic quadrant theory would say that there are 4 Dawn Shards, which we know from Dawn Shard, the novella. And in there is a mural that shows 16 things coming off of those 4. But there's not I don't think there's a picture of it, and it's not explicitly clear that it is 4 per quadrant. Might be once it's drawn out. But as an example, cultivation might be someone that allies both with a command of change and a command of creation, let's say. And so you could have... Yeah, go ahead, please.
Wait, yeah. Do you want to finish your thought?
Just basically the idea then, the presumption as I've always heard it is 4 Dawn Shards divide up into the 16 shards of Adonalsium, with it being cleanly 4 shards per Dawn Shard, with no overlap. But somebody was proposing, could you have some overlap?
I've seen I feel like the general theory would just be that there's no overlap, that it's each Dawn Shard has 4 shards associated. I mean, I've seen people go so far as to make a grid of 4 Dawn Shards and 4 Dawn Shards, and it's every pair makes a different shard.
Yes.
Which I don't think is the case. Yeah, I don't know. I'm inclined to think that it's just each Dawn shard is associated with 4 shards. I think that the association is going to be relatively loose. I don't think it's going to be this really hard and fast, like, oh, of course, I should have seen how all these 4 were clearly these into this category.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Brandon will create some rhyme or reason, but I don't think it'll be based on anything that's like, it'll be something that makes sense when Brandon writes it, but until then there's really no, because if you look at it, it's not really it doesn't really work now looking at the charts. Like there's
Yeah.
some weird
Well,
stuff.
plus to hold strictly to the quadrant theory would imply that the shards and the Dawn shards, or like that the shards come from the Dawn shards or vice versa. And I don't, based on the information we have right now, I don't think that's the case. Because
I think that the reason that they are the association exists is maybe because of the way that the Dawn shards were used in killing ad nauseum, used in making the shattering, and so I think maybe like using the Dawn shards the way they did, like probably might have maybe I should say not probably maybe like affected like created the shards as they are, like to where they are associated with the Dawn shards in some way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
In the same way that, like, if you take an axe and slam it into glass, it'll shatter differently because you used that object as opposed to a fist or a blade or things like the object used to shatter can result in different splinters. Obviously, with more metaphysical reasons behind these 4 Dawn shards.
I might like abuse the metaphor even further to be like, if you took 4 totally different weapons and all like at the same time attacked a piece of glass, you might be able to look at it later and be like, oh, like this is the part that was destroyed by the hammer, and this was the part where the golf ball hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If 4 Dawn shards splinter 6 or splinter out announcement into 16, and then only one of them remains, did the 4 Dawn shards forge the Dawn the shard?
Goodness.
Gosh.
What's up with this autonomy as 2 shard holders?
Who knows?
Yeah, because I guess some of these are just weird.
Where is that?
It's under White
Above
Sand
Hoyd's
as a
real
civil war, and above Hoyd's real name.
Autonomy
below.
has 2 shard holders. Huh. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, maybe that was old. At this point, I would say that Autonomy has like 1,000 shard holders, right? Like if Bavadin goes away, doesn't it just bop over to one of the other avatars? But I don't know.
I don't think it would. I don't think that they can just hand off the. I think that one of the avatars could like step in.
Okay.
To Bavadin's place if Bavadin left for one reason or another, but I don't think that it would just like automatically transfer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like you have to be there when the shard dies, right? That's kind of the theme we've seen, is that somebody's there at that location to pick up that piece, right?
If I had to guess, I would assume that this wherever this theory is coming from is just some person that's like, oh, Bavadin has like this whole like multi-personality, like multiple avatar, like weird thing going on, and they're just maybe thinking that like that's being driven by.
Yeah, it kind of falls into the whole Pachti is a shard thing, right? Pachti is not a shard; it's an avatar of a shard. Autonomy has a whole bunch of different avatars, some of which are just like, dropped in, because Pachti that wasn't anybody. It was just literally the investiture that she put on the planet that grew into what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unlike, and then you have like Telsin, right, who was somebody that was created to be an avatar, right? Am I missing? Am I thinking about that right? Like she's done it with people. Trell is somebody that she's endowed with that power to be the avatar, versus something like Pachti, which is just literally investiture that grew into being an avatar. Am I right? That's like the 2 different types of avatars. Am I misreading that?
I don't even know that there's like two types necessarily, but
there's
yeah, I mean,
people
Well,
that
they're
have
not
been
all.
made
They're
into
not
an
all. They're not
avatar.
all. Not all the avatars were originally beings
Right.
endowed with
Yeah,
power.
yeah, yeah. Like,
Which is what I'm saying. So you wouldn't count them as shard holders. You would count them as invested beings who are labeled as avatars, versus the actual shard holder, which is Bavadin. And if Bavadin were to die, somebody would have to be there to pick that shard up. Which I think location does matter when a shard dies, depending on where you are. It's the reason that the Irie was traveling towards Scadrial for the death of a shard, right?
yes. Yeah,
Otherwise, they could have just
absolutely.
done it from a cognitive realm somewhere. They could have been anywhere and said, "Oh, I'm going to just pick up the power." So location does matter when it comes to the death of a shard.
I wonder what would
The death
happen to the
of a realm.
avatars if autonomy died.
Probably depends on how
Yeah,
tightly
so I
connected they are. But I mean, I guess Stormfather continues, right? The Spren continue. I wanted to point out that we have
Does anybody
both.
want to talk about that?
Oh, go ahead.
it would be an interesting question to ask Brandon. What happens to the avatars when a shard is splintered? Something like that sounds like it would be a fun spoiler Q&A question.
Yeah, it'd be a good question. I feel like it would be one of those things where they would probably stay the same unless the new shard says, "You know what, give me that back," and just sucked it back in, like brought back the investiture.
That's kind of where my brain was going to. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like without the new shard actively reclaiming that power, they probably just stay how they are. You know what I mean? Like with Honor when he was splintered, the Spren didn't just disappear and dissipate. They stayed Spren, and now the invested beings of the Radiant still exist with that power, right?
I guess it just depends on whether it's a lifeline or a deposit, right? Like, does autonomy maintain a flow of investiture? Because, like, with Telsin, when autonomy is able to withdraw the investiture, which could happen both, like, I deposit it, now I take it away. But if it was like a lifeline, like almost like a string of investiture connecting them, then if that
but
was
would that
severed,
string break though? If Bavadin died though, the shard is still there.
Yeah.
So the string wouldn't necessarily be severed because the shard still exists. It's just whoever picks up that shard. If somebody picks up that shard.
Oh, sure.
And if it's a splintering, I guess maybe then that would be the case.
Yeah, it gets real weird real fast.
Anybody want to talk about the Stormfaker conspiracy?
Yeah. All right, Wind and Truth. We got to talk about Wind and Truth prologue. So if somehow you're up at 12:50 a.m. Eastern listening to people talk about the Cosmere and also are not interested in reading the prologue, we've entered a point where the Venn diagram never works, does not work out for you. It's also one of my favorite silly Cosmere jokes is a Venn diagram. Like, what's the Venn diagram of female protagonists named Vin in Mistborn or something? It's just a circle.
That's
it's
funny.
A Venn diagram.
Completely unrelated to the transition to Wind and Truth, but I am going to dip out now.
No. That's fair.
Okay.
Adios.
Bye, y'all. Good talks.
Good night.
See ya. Give me a date. Okay, he's gone.
Oh, man. Jeremie, how do you feel about the Stormfaker conspiracy? I think me and Josh are on opposite sides of it.
Because I haven't been online to it. So the Stormfaker is basically saying that the Stormfather in the prologue of Wind and Truth is not actually the Stormfather, right?
Correct.
I 100% am on board with that. I don't think that's the Stormfather.
How much? Yeah, I
made a few videos on it. Actually, I have a few videos back on my TikTok where I talk about it. I just think that there's too much evidence that shows this. I personally think it's cultivation.
Okay.
And I think it's the moment where cultivation decides, you know what? I'm not using Gavilar to be. I think it was cultivation. I think cultivation was grooming Gavilar to be the next Odium. And it was around that time that she made her decision to no longer use Gavilar and moved on to Taravangian. So that's my theory on that. I think that was the case. Just because the Stormfather appearing the way that they did, the Stormfather literally says multiple times, "I am the storm. I can't just stop and see one thing, inside buildings," when Kaladin asks him to. And all of a sudden, here's the Stormfather, like a Spren inside of a building with Gavilar. And yet Gavilar was not a bondsmith, so they weren't bonded at that point.
Yeah.
So it just was, you know what I mean? And the Stormfather started to get some of his memories and himself back once he bonded, unless he's totally lying, but I
Right.
don't think he is.
That is the bit of the crux of the problem, is like we're having to rely upon how the Stormfather presents himself. And yeah, I will say one of my favorite textual evidences is like not even a fact thing. It's just the way something gets written. They talk about the heralds being the 10 fools in the prologue, and then Gavilar looks at the Stormfather and says, "What are you?" And the Stormfather responds, "The greatest fool of them all," which is why I place my hat on Ishar as what I think it is.
That's fair.
Looking for, at this point, you're 4,500 years post Prelude, and because it's also around that time when the herald dies, because a herald would know that a herald has died in a way that maybe cultivation wouldn't. I don't know, that gets tricky. It's difficult to say, but a herald we know would be able to sense the death of another herald. That's the other big piece of factual evidence I have there.
Fair.
Yeah. And then Josh thinks we're all crazy.
My only problem with it being Ishar is that Ishar being able to hold their sanity and long enough to put on that act.
I mean, they're just playing as the Almighty, right? So
yeah, that's true. But I mean, I just from us seeing Ishar on screen and them going from being coherent, talking to Dalinar, and then the craziness, like I just feel like that would be hard for them to. But I mean, he could have, I guess.
That's fair.
But Josh, you don't think you think it is the Stormfather?
Yeah. I never did. I didn't even it crossed my mind as I'm reading it that it would be anyone else. I think I was just like too enamored with. To me, it was much more compelling the idea that the Stormfather has been holding secrets back and is not who we thought he was. I find that to be more compelling than that it's just like some, I don't know, that Gavilar was being duped, I guess. Yeah. Especially with Gavilar like just dying at the end and not like mattering. It's
fair. It'd be hard to pay it off. Like, how do you bring that revelation forward? Does the Stormfather, because who would have the realization? I like to attack my own theory. How would that ever get revealed, right? Would Ishar have to monologue or cultivation? But who would they even talk to about it? Because nobody that we read about in there is still alive to talk it through. So I think like I can imagine, I guess, ways to bring it into I think either of those ideas or other ones I've seen, like I can imagine ways to bring it into the story. But I just think it's the idea that Stormfather has been keeping secrets and is not who we thought it. I think it's just a really cool, a cool twist. Yeah, assuming that the story like follows up on it and like explains why and how and what, yada yada yada. Yeah. I don't. To me, his personality is not really that different than how he comes across in like Words of Radiance. Like at the end of Words of Radiance is like the first time you actually get to like start talking with him before he like bonds with Dalinar, and when you get like all of Oathbringer, like in that little slot right there, he just comes across to me as very unhinged and very inhuman. And very like he has these like plots and schemes. He brings the High Storm to like wipe everybody out because he's like, screw this, the world's over. I'm gonna wipe everybody out here because that seems like a good idea, I guess. It just strikes me as this like being that sort of has its own designs and yeah. So that's what I thought as I read it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think, like I said, I think my thing on it is just, I just think unless the Stormfather has to, be an extremely accomplished actor to get by some of the stuff that he did, just based on how he was previously and then how he's grown. He was very, I am the storm, I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I can only do so much. And then he says how much being with Dalinar has affected him and brings his memory back, and but that would all have to have been a lie. Like everything the Stormfather has done throughout the books would have to be basically a lie.
Yeah.
Because when he's talking in the prologue, that all hadn't happened yet. He's not bonded to Gavilar, but he had all these memories and thoughts and saying, "I'm trying to make you a herald" and all this stuff. So that means literally that the Stormfather's character has been false the entire series. So that's why I think it's less of a stretch for him to be to not be the Stormfather. To be honest with you.
So maybe the real Stormfaker theory is that it's not that this is the fake version of the Stormfather. This is the real version of the Stormfather.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing the Stormfaker the whole rest of the series. Is the friends we made along. Maybe the real Sauron is the friends we made along the way.
Mal said it just doesn't align, not very honorable. And that, to me, like, that's precisely the thing, is like it twists this idea of like, oh, we assumed that the Stormfather was super honorable with a certain definition of what it means to be honorable, and not like necessarily the all about oaths. Just make sure you keep your promises.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, honestly, I think it could go either way. Yeah. But I think that this, like, honestly, I think that Stormfaker theory, personally, I think it's a little too low on this list. Like, I feel like it's not. I feel like that's been talked about a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's not an uncommon theory. It's a very contested theory, I think. Because I think a lot of people do think that wasn't the Stormfather, and a lot of people are like, no, that's absolutely the Stormfather. Anytime I've seen people talk about it, it's I don't know if it's 50-50, but it's not as. I just think it's more common of a theory than what this is giving it credit to be.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty mainstream.
Yeah, I think it should be at least up one more tier.
Yeah, my only guess would be it's because it's based upon an unreleased prologue, right? And so that might be why it's further down, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who can say?
Yeah, but the release chapters are so mainstream, though, like you just said. Like, I think that a lot of people, half the fandom, if not more, is reading these release chapters. Like, I feel like if you're not, you're in the minority, not the majority.
Yeah, you'd think, I don't know, it gets really weird. In real life, I encounter so many people that are just like, no, why would I read that? I'm going to wait. And I'm like, what?
That's fair. That's fair. I think it's mostly the people who are obsessed that are doing it. So
yeah, that's fair. Why am I just blanking on Jack's bird is real? What is that referencing?
I have no idea.
Like, so Alamancer Jack?
It's got to be Alamancer Jack.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. The Alamancer Jack story is like the one that I read one time very quickly when I was reading it, and have never gone back to it. It's probably like my least known / read, probably least favorite Cosmere short story at all. Period.
Okay,
I might have read it twice, maybe.
Yeah, I think I skimmed. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I skimmed through it when I was reading Arcanum Unbound just to get to the next story.
Oh, so apparently a crow named Lynn.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Somewhere in Handerwim's footnotes. You go ahead. I think you have more. You're a Coppermine.
Yeah. So a crow named Lindip supposedly spoke to Alamancer Jack, but Brandon has not commented on whether she's a Khandra, an AVR, or if she even exists. I was reading Lost Metal, and with all the times that Wax is just super upset with Alamancer Jack, I really wanted a parallel story where Alamancer Jack is off like saving Scadrial, and he's like, that Waxilium Ladrian, just I wish he would come and do the real, just like how they would both think the other is the ludicrous adventure or whatever.
Yeah.
There is a like in Handerwim's footnotes. Handerwim's footnotes are like that's what makes I enjoyed Alamancer Jack, and it's because of the footnotes. If you did the audiobook, you absolutely, that garbage can't do it that way. You got to read like Arcanum Unbounded with the text. But in his footnotes it says, I guess the story must mention the bird at some point, but the note says, see episode 7 for this narrative for Lindip's most recent appearance. I will repeat what I said there. I did not see, nor have I ever seen, this supposed talking bird, and cannot confirm her existence.
It's amazing.
So,
classic.
I should go back and read it. I should go back and finish Rhythm of War, but I'm in the middle of reading a lot of Driz books right now. So,
Mm.
what is this? Autonomy invaded Taldane. Does autonomy need to invade Taldane?
That's a good question.
So I guess the thesis would be autonomy is not like original-ish to Taldane.
I don't know how I feel about that.
There's in like White Sand, there's like several times where they're like talking about like, oh, this is how like sand mastery works, and it's like the sand masters have their autonomy, and it's like bold letters.
Yeah.
This is baked into their magic system.
100%. So I don't think the idea that I just don't think autonomy.
Oh, I totally misread. This is a cell.
There's two of them. One of them says autonomy invaded
okay.
Taldane. One of them says autonomy invaded Cell.
Yeah.
So like even the Cell one, I don't think they invaded Cell. I think one of their avatars is on Cell.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think their army has gotten to Cell. But yeah, but the Taldane one just doesn't make any sense to me because that's her planet. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends on how prehistory we go. If we're talking about like, did autonomy bring people and settle Taldane? Is Taldane a pre-shattering world?
But even then, you could make that argument. Then you could say, well, then honor and cultivation invaded Roshar. You know what I mean? Like that would be the same type of same type of argument. And then Fabrials belong to Invention. That just seems like something else. Somebody said, "Oh, there's one called Invention. Let's just throw a thing at the wall and say that Fabrials, because they're the main invention in the Cosmere."
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Not a lot there.
What else is there? Shallan and Kaladin were apprentices. I think that one was disproven.
Right? Even in my deepest confusions about Shallan, I would probably be comfortable saying that she was not an apprentice of Hoyt.
Well, and like I said, I think that's again, if out of the 7 people supposedly in here right now, we're going to get into Wind and Truth chapters. I mean, Hoyt says that, right? Hoyt tells Kaladin, I would never have you as an apprentice.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. The Kaladin one, definitely not. And then Shallan.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm
it's already yeah, because he lays out who he would pick as an apprentice, and I don't think Shallan or Kaladin fall into that category. So.
Oh, Brando Calrissian 35 says, "Do you have Lift is already the 3rd bondsmith?" That is a fantastic theory.
Already the 3rd. Never seen that.
I would say Lift is pretty heavily with Wendell. So unless she has a secret bondsmith spren, I don't see it.
I've seen people suppose that Lift will become a bondsmith.
So what would happen to Wendell in that case then?
That's like Testament and
buy more
Pattern.
more than one.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess that could be them laying the ground, or him laying the groundwork for that. Actually, yeah. Becoming the bondsmith, but still maintaining Wendell as her. Yeah.
Brando, that is a fair, not leap, but that is a fair conclusion. Brando points out that the 2 bondsmiths we know, Dalinar's able to create Stormlight through the perpendicularity. Navani and the sibling can make Tower Light. Lift can make Cultivation Light by eating. So there is that interesting pattern going on there.
Yep.
That's interesting. I would more say that's something that was granted by cultivation rather than through a bondsmith power. But
yeah, personally, I think that just means she's more purely a cultivation radiant versus a honor radiant type deal. But can Lift use Stormlight?
I think it's unclear.
It doesn't, at least at the battle. I mean, they've got the perpendicularity open, and she's still like munching on things. So she thinks she can.
Yeah, like she thinks she can.
Okay, fair enough.
It would seem weird if she couldn't, but I guess that could be boon and curse, right? Which that's not on here, I don't think anywhere. But basically the theorizing that the way Cultivation and the Night Watcher do the old magic being similar to how Xysis does his deals under the sea. Like you give up some you give up something, you gain something, like that give and take relationship. That feels like that's worthy of being on the iceberg somewhere.
Yeah. That was the one that we didn't talk about a higher, right? The foil equal Xysis one. It's annotated as a canon statement, but I think the timelines are a little goofy with that, aren't they? With foil and
I don't think so.
I mean,
it's
I'm not saying it's not canon. I
by
think
word
it's
of
canon.
Brandon.
Isn't there like something that goes along with the I don't know, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've read about those two. Because foil's mentioned in Stormlight, right?
It's in the Ars Arcanum, which is kind of like ambiguous dating on it, right?
Okay.
So,
but not to, I didn't mean to jump up there, but just because we mentioned Xysis,
yeah.
I didn't mean to get off track.
No, you're good.
There was one I just saw that I wanted to point out. I don't know where it went. Shoot. Oh, the Alemannic table is wrong theory.
Yeah.
What is that referencing? Because I don't know, you guys probably, if you're on the Reddits more than I am, you probably see this stuff more than I do. But is that referencing the retcon? Because they updated the table to include the retcon, right?
Yeah, they did make some edit, a small edit.
Which I think that's the one I have, is the one with the retcon. I think
you do. It was not terribly. I think that was before they announced the retcon, though.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think the original was like that different.
I bought that.
But I could be wrong.
I bought that 2020, I think. 21? 20 or 21. I bought that map or that table. So, yeah. Whenever the retcon, I know the retcon's from before that, but whenever they started revamping the Alemannic tables, I'm pretty sure I brought that in 21.
I'm not sure what that might refer to.
That's fair.
I'm trying to think of it.
I'm looking at a table that has Sarobend instead of
What was that, CJ?
Bendalloy. I said I'm looking at a table that has Sarobend instead of Bendalloy. So that's a very old version of this table.
That might be what it's referring. Yeah, it was like a typo early on.
That's interesting.
Maybe.
You got a first edition?
No, I don't. Yeah, mine definitely has Bendalloy.
Josh, I'm literally looking.
It was in the original draft.
I'm looking at a Reddit thread with you giving the exact explanation you're about to give right now, 7 years ago.
That I'm about to give.
Yep.
That's great.
That's funny. What year? When was it? When was the comment made?
7 years ago. So
brand new crap.
2017
is saying it. It was the original draft of Alloy of Law. It was going to be Sarabend, and then someone was like, "This is copyrighted," and Brandon was like, "Crap, we got to change it to Bend Alloy," but it was too late to change the chart, something like that. Is that what I said 7 years ago? I was probably more right then than I am now.
That is almost identical to what you said.
Well, now I have to go on the hunt for an original Alemannic chart that has the retcon, or it has the wrong stuff on it.
I don't know if it's on the chart or if it's only on like I don't know if it's on the book. Yeah, it might be on the book version. I'm not sure.
So
I don't have it.
Yeah, it looks like it's part of
Crafty
Crafty Games.
Edition version of the book, you mean?
Yeah, of like Crafty Games RPG.
Oh, well,
maybe. You said 7 years ago
I
this
thought it was alloy of
table
law.
and a ferrochemical one are included.
I have to go get my. I don't know what edition my hard copy of Alloy of Law is. I'd have to go look.
In the original mock-up of the complete table of allomantic metals, this metal was named Cerabend. However, the word was trademarked for the metal, so Brandon was forced to use bend alloy instead. So they shared an image of Brandon shared the allomantic metal chart on his live journal page. So that's where a digital version is. I don't know. Maybe it never did get printed. Maybe it's just.
You would assume that would have gotten caught before it went in any type of print, and Brandon would have gotten any copyright trouble.
Yeah.
This was in
Here it is. I think
2008. December 12th, 2008. So it's before it wouldn't be Alloy Law.
I see one from. Oh no, I found one from October 17th, 2008 on LiveJournal, but it's just it's the first question will be answered on the Mistborn poster we have in the works. Here's another draft of it below. However, if you really, really have to know, I posted an answer in the spoilers thread. There's also an answer to the second question. Warning, there are a lot of Mistborn spoilers, but it's oh no, actually it is here. Hold on. I'm gonna open the image in a new tab and see if I can zoom into it. Oh, you have a big version of it? Oh, I was able to zoom in. Yeah, the quality's not good enough. But that one's from the one I have is from he dropped it on October 17th, 2008. Let me look at it. Oh yeah, see the one I have is even more bare bones. Here, I'll copy this one. And I'll put it right next to that one too. So this one's even smaller.
Oh yeah.
But I can't read anything on it, but I would assume that it has the same type of thing on it. But I think this is like an original version of that chart.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Interesting. That's good. We're getting deep into Brandon Mistborn lore. So that's an interesting one. I'm glad he put that on there. That might not be what he's referencing.
I doubt it is. I'm betting it's some deeper, like, we're going to find out again that one of the metals or some of the metals are not the correct metals, right? I mean, that is the one problem with an Era 1 where people are so wrong about so many aspects of the magic system that then it's kind of like the Shallan problem. All of a sudden you're looking everywhere for, like, what's the next thing that's going to get revealed?
Yeah.
Brennan Carlson says it was printed. It was the OG, I guess it was the first edition of the allomantic metal chart.
Well, now I have to find it.
It's probably a pricey collector's item.
I bet.
Listen, I go all in for some of my items.
I was going to say, I could have sworn there was a printed version that had it in there. But yeah, I guess it was the first edition.
All right.
Well, that's going to be my next thing that I'm going to keep an eye out for, is to see if I can figure that out.
All right. What is Botchor, Microkinesis, or the Traveler?
You've read the Traveler, right?
That's the short story,
I've
right?
read it. Have you read
that's
it?
like Frost and is that Frost
With
talking?
Frost in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Frost and Hoyd, and they go to, I think it's Hoyd on. Is it supposed to be him on Yolen, right? Because there's like the white tree and everything.
Mm-hmm. That was my understanding.
Yes.
There's a bone. Well, I know there's a bone white tree. I guess that doesn't necessarily mean he's on Yolen. It just means that there's a Yolish tree wherever Frost is, right?
Yeah.
That
was my
read it
understanding.
in a long time. But yeah, he was on Yolen. For some reason, I was thinking, like, I was wondering if it was like in the cognitive realm of Yolen, but I don't think there's any reason to think that. But like, I haven't read it in forever, so hard to say. I think it was just on Yolen.
Yeah.
Actually, real quick, Brandon Calrissian 35. How much do you want for it? Let me know.
It's amazing.
Anyways.
And microkinesis from Dragonsteel Prime, isn't that like one of the powers that they have is some version of because microkinesis would be like manipulation of atoms or axons.
Yeah.
I think I don't even think is that only in, I feel like I've read that. I've never read Dragonsteel Prime, but I've heard that word. Doesn't it get
Rhythm
talked
of War
about in canon?
Rhythm of War mentions it.
Oh,
okay.
And
there we go.
The Ars Arcanum of Rhythm of War.
No.
Actually, it's just atoms.
They're atoms. Yeah. They're supposed to be like molecules or something, right?
Yeah.
But microkinesis is considered an old magic, like the Aethers and like that stuff, right? Wouldn't that be like
from what I understand, I've not read Dragonsteel Prime, but from what I understand, it's like nuclear, like they're playing with nuclear forces, and you can like make like really big explosions with it.
Yeah, I would say it's maybe
tearing apart atoms themselves.
Yeah, maybe similar to old magic insofar as it's not tied to a particular shard, but it's like magic of the Cosmere. It's similar in that way, perhaps. I mean, it's pre-shattering magic, so it has to be independent of a specific shard.
Word. Hey, real quick, sorry to interrupt. Listen, Brando Calrissian, if that's the case, I will pay you for it. You give me your Venmo or something, and you let me know. I'll pay shipping.
I love this.
You let me know.
We're making connections.
You shoot me a DM on TikTok, and I will 100%. If you can find a way, let me know how much you want, how much shipping is. I'm not even joking. So, anyways,
it's amazing. Mal says it's OP, probably the investment of Adonalcium.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's what the old magic is, though, right? The original magic of the Cosmere. The Aethers are one of them, right? Mm-hmm. So that would probably be what microkinesis is some earlier. And honestly, what we see the singers use on Roshar, right, would probably be a version of the old magic that we see prior to
the symbiosis with the Spren.
Yeah. Well, and even like when we get the flashbacks of where Venli touches or whatever, and she gets the visions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would that be when Well, I guess honor and cultivation could have been there, but that could have easily been during Aiden Alzium's time, right? Because Aiden Alzium created Roshar and the Singers, so you would think there was some sort of magic going on then that gave them their culture and history prior to honor and cultivation showing up.
Yeah.
So I would assume some early version of the Surges existed, which would have been a old magic version. So, thanks, Brando. I appreciate that, buddy. Seriously. Yeah.
And then Bakhor? Oh, Josh, go ahead. You had a thought? You looked like you were thinking about something for a minute.
I don't remember what it was.
I think you had a very distinct response when I said not associated with a particular shard and the microkinesis.
Yeah, no, I think I was just like I was thinking that Chris seems to like refer to it as a distinct thing in its own right, which is just maybe like I was just thinking it's not like I don't think it's like it's light weaving and like here's one expression of light weaving and here's another planet's expression of light weaving. The way Chris phrases it seems like she's not saying that cohesion is like the Rosharan manifestation of this. It's like similar. She's saying it's similar to this.
Yeah,
but it's just sort of
that makes sense to me. Yeah, they're both accomplishing similar things, but in different enough ways that we wouldn't just say this is cohesion done differently. This is light weaving done differently. That makes sense. Batchor. Mal says Batchor was Hoyd's ex-bestie.
Yeah.
Is that from Dragonsteel Prime?
No, I think that's I think that's a wob, right?
Yeah, but I think it's a wob based on like I think the character is mentioned in Dragonsteel Prime. Maybe right. I've never read it, so I don't know. But
he was originally planned to be introduced in the original. Or hold on, he might not have been. He was originally planned to be introduced in the original draft of the Dragonsteel series, and is a character in Dragonsteel Prime, but it's unclear if it's still the case.
It should be clear now. Was that Coppermine?
Yep, sure is.
How do I check? Here it is.
Yeah, Bachelor is a friend of Hoyd's from Yolen. For a long period of time, he was Hoyd's best friend, but that is no longer the case during Hoyd's visit post-Catasandric Scadrial.
He's mentioned 447 times in Way of Kings Prime.
Wow.
If you would like to get all of the non-canonical Batchor lore.
Interesting. Was Hoyd's friend,
Yeah.
but no longer the case post Catasandra. Which Brandon, somehow somebody got that out of him at a live stream? What?
A YouTube live stream.
A YouTube live
I feel
stream.
like a word of Brandon like that. What year was that?
Okay, so
21.
Yeah, this is 21. The question was,
No.
who is Hoyd's
22.
best? Oh, so yeah, okay. But the question was,
Unit
who is
22,
Hoyd's
but
best
also-
friend?
Yeah. But there's also a the World Guide. What is that? The TWG post. What is that? The that's a website, right?
Yeah.
But it was also he was mentioned in 2007. So. So he must have been mentioned in the Dragonsteel Prime series in 2007.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Thing asked earlier, will this be up on YouTube? Yes, I should have probably said that intermittently throughout. But if you're joining along and wanting to check back on the VOD, a loosely edited version will end up on YouTube. Probably not a ton of editing in this one.
You can edit out all the D&D talking stuff. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
The Tamukek one though, that was. Were you involved in that? Were you in that, Josh?
Me? No, I don't think so.
On that episode, because that was from the Shardcast interview.
Yeah, it's come up a couple times. It's really funny. If you search Tamukek on Arcanum,
yeah,
we have 5 Word of Brandons on them. And like half of them are one person who, like, all of his questions are asking about like something completely different, and Brandon makes some reference to Tamukeks. It's like hilarious. Like he asks about something about Singer gem hearts. They're milky white in color. I guess this first one he was asking about them, but I'm trying to find.
Who was it that kept asking the questions?
Ian, Weary Rider.
Weary Rider, Ian. I haven't watched the Shardcast in a very long time. It's probably been 2 years since I watched the Shardcast episode.
It came up in the Shardcast interview in 21, and he like asked some question about Siones, and somehow Brandon made a comment about Tamukeks in it. And then there's the one about Zysis. It's attributed to somebody else, but I think it was like his question that like got asked in the interview. And Brandon randomly mentions them there when he started talking about dragons and how they use these bones to communicate with each other.
What do you think he means by the Singer gem hearts are very similar to Tamukeks? Unless
magical things in a person's body, and they're kind of bone-like,
I guess.
I mean, it could have something to do with Tamukeks. It's type of bone that can be used for interim. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
Weird indeed.
Then we've got Senna.
That one I do remember. That one was a preservation line, a Laris line. Something about he was referencing a person. You don't know if it's a lover or a mother or a god, another different type of god. but it's the way he says it. He says, here, hold on, I can look it up. He says, "Oh, Senna, I'm losing this place, losing them all." He says in Secret History. Senna is someone or something that Laris, the Vessel Preservation, mentions to Kelsier in the cognitive realm prior to his death. It's not someone that Laris thinks is a deity. That's right, that was a wob. If Senna is a person, they're not a love interest of Hoyd's. That's kind of silly. I don't know who asked that one. Apparently they asked it at the Skyward San Diego signing. I would have never considered that to be a thing. Not everybody from that time period has to be a lover of Hoyd's. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you would assume it's kind of like I attribute him saying, "Oh, Senna," which is him probably jumping back to his mortal days, kind of like the Vax thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm surprised Vax is not down here.
Yeah, because it's literally that's the only time it's mentioned, right? Just the one-off line.
Yeah, it's probably belongs there better.
They're probably more aware of it.
If Senna's all the way down here, Vax should probably be down here.
We've memed Vax about Vax a lot, like on 17th Shard, and so maybe they just kind of picked up on that. I guess.
Yeah, because I guess it's like what would be known to the fandom, right? It goes a little higher.
Yeah.
Senna wouldn't. They don't talk about that, but Vax is like you said, it's memes so much.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Even just trying to think through why that is, possibly because Senna seems more personified. It feels like you know more about them, and so it's less mysterious than just one word, Vax, and then he moves on. I don't know.
I can't. Every time I hear Vax, I just think Critical Role. That's what pops in my head.
Sure.
Every time.
All right. And then the last one, Hoyd's teacher, connects back to Hoyd's real name.
Saphandris.
I'm gonna need a chart at some point, like breaking down correctly all the names of Hoyd, and like where each one came from, and whether they were all stolen from somebody else, or because it's
we do assume Saphandris name though, right? Because that's the shards refer to him as Saphandris. That's a known thing, right?
I thought
that's not his real name.
Yeah, I thought Saphandrius was a stolen name also.
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I guess I never really thought about it too much.
I think by the time he's hanging out with the shards, Saphandrius is the name.
Or
he's
wasn't
using.
it that wasn't his teacher's name Saphandrius, and he stole his teacher's name?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm pretty sure is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Hoyd's teacher was Saphandrius, and he stole the name. Okay, we're all just let's Google it real quick. Let's look it up.
Oh, I forgot about the second part of it, Mac's story.
So here, Brandon said Saphandrius is more Hoyd. Saphandrius Mac's story. It's amazing. I've never heard the second half of that, or if I have, I didn't remember it at all.
So yeah, I think that's probably the closest. Then it's probably like you said, it's probably his stolen teacher's name. Because yeah, it's got to be.
He does have the name Topaz in Dragonsteel Prime, so the name Topaz is older than the name Saphandrius.
Fair.
Then there's Medius as well.
Yeah.
Well, because Midius is what he was known as to the Heralds, right?
That's true.
Yeah, I almost wonder if that's like
Hoyd's Copperman page is a freaking novel in and of itself. Who wrote
it? Less novel and more your great grandmother's attic or basement.
Yeah.
I have to wonder if Midius is related to Saphandrius.
Feels right?
I don't know. It's got the ES. It's got the M from Mac's story there too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels like maybe it could be a nickname of Safandrius or something.
Yeah. Maybe
Who is Hoyd's Coppermine page a collaborative thing, or is there one person who wrote the Hoyd article on there?
No, collaborative is a generous term. It's more like cobbled on by everybody, and
Okay.
it
I know
needs.
Because I know some 17th article, like they're like, oh, I wrote that article, I wrote this article. I didn't know if the Hoyd was one person or one.
The problem is there's so much Hoyd lore that's from Words of Brandon, and those tend to get added on piecemeal as you get them. It deeply needs like someone to kind of like come in and like with an editorial hand and like rewrite the whole thing from scratch, but it's a bear of an article to have to like go through.
I was gonna say that would
so nobody wants to.
That would
probably
literally be somebody's project for like months to get that organized.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
And it would need to be redone within 5 years, right? Like we'd have brand new information, which is the hard part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's got to be probably the most difficult. That page has to probably be the most difficult page on the entirety of the Coppermine.
The trivia section is just like this list of like 20 bullet points.
Yep. Yeah, it's absolutely.
And there's no telling how much stuff it did not get into the article that like needs like if you're redoing it properly, you'd have to go do some research on like dig up information that's not in it.
I mean, there's stuff in here that you don't think, like the fact that the just I don't know, all this again because he's involved in so much, like the restoration of Elantris, the collapse of the Final Empire, the Pod Call Rebellion, Obradai, Prelude to the True Desolation, the War of Reckoning, like geez, Campaign in the Mule, the writing of the contract, and the Ascension of Teravangian, like it's just absolutely insane.
Dream job, for real. Yeah, if someone wants to pay me, I will gladly rewrite Hoyd's article.
Guys, we made it through the entire iceberg, and I mean we skipped a few things, but not as many things as I thought we would skip.
I think a lot of the stuff we skipped though was that, like I said, that clay at the wall type thing where where they don't really matter. Like they're ones that are just kind of like he literally I think just went in and picked random things that he could just post on here that don't really make sense. So
we never did talk about Dhatri, did we?
No.
There's not that there's much to say.
No, I don't think we talked about it.
It's the Aether planet.
That's the Aether planet, yeah.
Oh, sure. AKA
I don't think that was canonized in Lost Metal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's the first time it was canonized, right? Because before that it was a thing and it got placed into canon in Lost Metal because they talk about if I'm not mistaken, Hoyd talks to somebody about them aligning with them, correct? Like that planet aligning with them. Isn't that what it was referenced to when he talks about the different planets that would be on their side?
Well, I think they were trying to take back.
Not Hoyd, I'm sorry, Kelsier.
Yeah.
I was like, my brain's like, whoa, something's like running. The gears are grinding.
Not Hoyd, Kelsier.
It comes up because it's where Twin Souls is from.
Yep.
And he references it. I'm trying to think of like
I got it
when
right
it comes up previously.
There are potential allies out there: Moonlight's World, perhaps, which is Cell, or the Land of the Aethers, Hell, maybe even Mythos. So hold on, maybe he doesn't say his name. The name of Dhatri is a planet in the Cosmere that is the origin of the Aethers. Kelsier mentioned the planet to Harmony as a potential ally for Scadrial, but he didn't say the name in the quote. So maybe it's not canon.
Yeah, I think the name comes from
the book or the unpublished story, right? Or is it a WoW?
Oh yeah, it was.
Dhatri.
It was referenced. Yeah, it came in the word like a word of Brandon at Dragonsteel Nexus last year.
Okay.
Brandon mentioned it, and then it popped up in that reading.
Okay, I was gonna say because Dhatri and Aethers, I made the connection was there, but I remember them talking about the Land of the Aethers, which but how's that connection being made then? I guess it through a wob, right? Because if he doesn't say it
Yeah, when it came up in like from the WoB, he was talking about about world building the Aether planet.
Okay, here it is. Jordan Con 2021. That's what this says.
No, that is that Page Runner. He was so mad about that.
Dhatri is a planet in the Cosmere that is the origin of the Aethers. And then it says Jordan Con 2021. Hold on, I'm clicking on it. Yeah, Page Runner. I would like my Cosmere Constellation map to have one more planet on it than everybody else's map. That's a smart idea. I'm on board with that. Adds a new planet and writes, "Here are the Aethers," or "Here there be Aethers." No name on it, just that there be Aethers. Yeah, I can't canonize the name yet. Well, then hold on, that doesn't fit.
No, it does. It does.
It probably threw another WoB though, right? Like, because that WoB doesn't have the word Dhatri in it at all.
What part didn't fit?
It
didn't give the name. He said I couldn't canonize the name yet.
He says you put it, but no name on it. Just that there be Aethers. Yeah, I can't canonize the name yet until I write the planet, right? So where does the name Dhatri come from? Why do I know the name?
It was later. That was Jordan Con in like 21 or something like that.
Yeah, and he mentions it again. Where though? Oh, hold on. Dragonsteel 2023. There it is.
Yeah.
And it's Lego Mistborn asked, Aether's interests seem to take over their hosts aggressively, probably without the host's permission, whereas we see in the Lost Metal with Twin Souls, it's more willing. Is this related and how to the corruption of Aethers on Lumar? Yes, it's related. You have the main Aether planet, which we just named, but I can't. So Kalyani named it for me. Well, Kalyani and Rahul, I'm relying on them for a lot for this planet, and they actually just sent me a 5,000 word world guide for it. They could tell us how to pronounce it. Dhatri might be how it is, regardless on the main planet. Okay, so it was named in a WoB.
You can listen to the audio. Brandon says it like 3 different ways, trying to say it.
All right, so I'm assuming this was during his Q&A though, right? At Dragon Show last year. That's
that was the spoiler Q&A last year.
I did a live stream during that I think. I did one during his speech, and then I think I did a live stream afterwards. That's probably where I heard it. Because I literally did a split screen on TikTok since I couldn't go, which I'm gonna do again this year, where I had his live stream underneath and me on top, and I was just talking about it. Was like I said, it was the most viewed live stream I've ever had. I had 300 people in that live stream. It was great.
That's awesome.
The Page Runner's thing, he was really like bitter. He got Brandon to write it on there, and Brandon said like, oh, like I don't have the name picked out yet. And then when he did like the Tress reading, Page Runner went to Brandon and was like, you signed my thing and told me you didn't have the name and you're a punk because you were writing Tress at the time, assuming that was the Aether planet. And Brandon commented saying, this is not the Aether planet.
Oh.
So was the planet there be Aethers? Was the planet he put on his map? It wasn't Lumar then. It was the actual Aether planet, or was he trolling him?
Yes.
Saying,
Yeah.
Because he said, all right. Okay.
He was thinking about this planet at the time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess just hadn't had a name yet.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. I was wondering why those two connected. So in my brain, Dhatri and Aether connected. That's why. But it wasn't from the
Good morning, V.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of.
That's so funny. We're up so late and she's just starting her day.
Yep. This is, I think, the third time that's
yeah,
happened.
We probably should.
It's been a pleasure, guys. This was great.
In the morning, so.
I am utterly amazed that we had the
stamina. Are we all East Coast?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So.
I'm technically in Central Time Zone tonight, but
so,
yeah.
Embarrassingly.
I'm so used to doing these lives with Utahians.
Utahns.
Yeah, Utahns. I don't know. So it's kind of refreshing that there's so many of us that are on the East Coast now.
Yeah.
But all right.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Well done.
Huzzah.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right, that was the Cosmere Iceberg. If you came late and want to see any more of that, it'll be on YouTube tomorrow. Have a great night.